Ilaje, wetu ni mashamba.
Clean your screen as well, you know. Hashtag changing cycles.
Sasa situangalia yangu wewe.
Okay, sawa basi.
Ni.
Hey, kumbe yako ni gadget. Yako si simu?
Usiende kununua vitu for the
Yako ni gadget. Ingine for an extra one, Justin. The ladies know, just in case for emergencies. All right. Awesome.
Chunga, usipigwe picha na mtu ambaye kidogo utaulizwa maswali jioni, ya? Chunga sana nani mnapigwa picha na. Ukiona upande wako wa kushoto kidogo ni mtu ambaye kidogo utaulizwa maswali, huyo handsome ni nani? Pigwa huko kwingine, eh? Change directions. It's very important, eh? Change directions. Wanaume ambao umekaa peke yenu. Go ahead.
All right, wonderful. I'll give you a minute to post it, whether it be your Twitter, your Facebook, your IG.
Oh, you're posting.
With the team, with the squad.
Yeah,
squad,
of course.
I also tupige na gadget.
Watu wa nyumbani poleni, tutaonyesha nyuma kidogo. Tupige na gadgets. Usiwe kidogo.
Changing cycles, guys. Changing cycles. Changing cycles. Woohoo! Let's make it trend. Oh, let me take a picture.
We are posting. We are taking a moment. Oh, nikuje. You get an opportunity to kupigwa picha na mdosi.
Nilikuwa nadhani uko na gadget yako sijui sasa itaitwa nini.
iPhone, iMac, all manner of iNess.
All right. And at this point, I hope you have posted. I will be posting mine in a moment once I have put down the microphone. Threads, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Am I missing one? No, I think I've captured all of them.
All of them.
Yes, and as I mentioned, there is a photo booth here. So if you see somebody you'd like to take a picture with during the break, after the event, you can stand there, take a picture, have a picture taken. There's a gentleman called Nderitu. You might just appear on the fashion pages. So those who are doubting you are here will know.
Of Daily Nation.
Hata wale wa mashinani watakuona.
Na Taifa Leo.
All right. I'd like to get our program started at this point. I see a podium. Do we need to move it?
Ile inakaa kama iko Misri. Kuna mtu anaweza tusaidia tuilete karibu na hapa Israeli.
Wako na misuli watusaidia if we can move it.
Watu wana misuli tinginya ndo hao. Mibabe.
Thank you very
wazee
much.
wa kaya na kaya bombo. Shukran za 30, 40 na 50. Ni ya kusukuma kama gurumu.
I cannot not make mention. We have a special guest who's joined us this afternoon, Cicely Kariuki. If you could stand and wave.
Makofi jamani, makofi jamani. Asante sana.
She has served as Cabinet Secretary Health and Water. In fact, the MHM policy was signed by her, and we'll be hearing from her in a short while. Makofi kwake. Our keynote speaker as well is in the building, Janet Mbugwa. This cause, together with Meg, the work you have done is amazing.
Hiyo makofi kidogo ni kana kwamba ni ya wivu. Tupige makofi mazuri. Asante sana. Tupige yale makofi ya chifu kidogo. Tupige makofi ya chifu. Ya chifu mnayajua?
Hiyo ni gani?
Haya, nishikie microphone.
Okay.
Watu wa TV, tulieni. Makofi ya chifu ni haya. Twende. Karibu. Wageni. Waheshimiwa. Nyinyi ni watu wa maana. Fungua. Funga. Fungua tena. Funga. Unaenda wapi? Asante sana. Karibuni sana. We appreciate you. You want to go to the podium?
Yes, I do.
Mimi ni mtu wa mkono. Nikaa hapa kwa watu ni estate.
You're free to do so.
Okay.
You have my permission.
Ukinitaka ukisikia kama utaita jina langu, ukinitaka ni kitu tofauti. Asante.
You know, I was thinking, because I looked, we have exhibitions out here, so I visited some of them. I saw Nia, courtesy of Zana Africa, out here. I saw Binti Pads just out here. I also saw Famela, and I wrote it down. Give me a quick second. You know, sometimes you go to the supermarket and you don't know what options you have. So apart from Famela, and I saw there's a pack that goes for 50 bob, there's a pack that goes for 60 bob. There's also Endosan that I saw out there. So for those of you who have never seen a sanitary towel, Fred Mutiriri, have you ever seen a sanitary towel? What are we talking about? Do you know what we are talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am married. Is that a good answer?
That is a good enough.
It means nothing. Atiriri. I am married and I'm a father of 3 daughters. So you can imagine the work that is ahead. And I do not have a son. Na mulikuwa mmetoa nje na mimi ni baba ya wasichana. Wewe.
Wewe nishikia hapa mic.
Oh, unataka kuonyesha sanitary kwa TV.
Hii sio nyoka, msiogope.
Kwa TV.
It is necessary.
Unaonyesha hii ni aibu kidogo. Ficha.
Sifichi.
Hatufichi.
Wacha ionekane Kenya kote.
Haya.
This is what we call a sanitary
Watu wa nyumbani poleni.
Some people call it a pad. And when you buy your pad, there are several things you look for.
Hallelujah.
Absorbency. Umekusikia hiyo?
Najaribu.
Usipatikane na aibu. Haya, pia nyingine tunaangalia ni how sticky it is. Sticky in the back so that it sticks away. Meg, on Tuesday we're discussing how you cannot have pads without underwear.
Hey.
Yeah, all right, ina stick mahali. And so that is why your care packages have that.
10 p.m.
Na iko na wings. Mumewahi kusikia wings?
Flying without wings.
In fact, if Equity hadn't taken wings to fly, this would have been, we are giving girls wings to fly, quite literally. So this is what we call a sanitary towel. And this, if you ask very many people in the building, the women will tell you is necessary. We have menses every month, assuming you're in the prime of your life, I think is how you put it at one event. If you're in the prime of your life, from adolescence on, this is necessary because you have no choice. Your period comes every month. Did you know that 65% of women in this country do not have access to these things, Fred?
The good thing is that I'm a journalist, so I know.
So you know. And up to 1 million girls miss school because they don't have these things.
1 million.
1 million.
Hao ni wengi jamani.
Ni wengi, sindio? All right, and that is the cycle we are looking to break. We are looking to break the shame and the stigma. Let's talk about it. Let's find out what we want government to do more than it has done, what the private sector needs to do, what community-based organizations need to do. All right? All right, hashtag changing cycles. Okay, at this point, Fred nisaidie hapo kuclear hii ndo mdosi akikuja asipatikane na mambo mengi.
Tumwatie, si hata amekuja kuzungumza mambo ya hedhi we nawe.
I'd like to call up to the podium Monica Ndongo. We took a picture with her. She's seated right here at the front. She is the Chief Operating Officer. Na nitauliza tumpigie makofi tafadhali.
Makofi ya kilo jamani.
Sababu, okay, Odia, will you? Is that
Asante.
enough room? Okay.
Asante.
Because not only has she made this event possible, you know, she signs the big checks. She has also given the green light that it be on television. And makofi ingine kwake.
Naomba niweke hii hapa. Niende nayo nikiwa nimetembea hivi.
The choice is yours.
I am being informed that KCQ 384R, KCQ 384R, please, your car is blocking some people. Kizungu kidogo na menya. KBM 180Q, tafadhal, inje. KCE 266V for Violet. Unaitwa inje jamani. Santeni.
All right, thank you,
Karibu
Fred.
sana mdosi.
And Monica, perhaps you can tell us why this is important.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is an actual privilege not only to be here as part of Nation Media Group, representing my group CEO, Mr. Stephen Gitagama, but to also be female and to facilitate and ensure that these conversations are not had in the privacy of women's conversations. And so it gives me great pleasure, first to thank Honorable Cicely Kariuki, who at her time did a lot for this particular subject, but also for people like Janet Mbugwa, Eric Simba, James Atito, Megan White, Rajiv, very many people who now see this issue not just as a matter of a conversation that needs to be had elsewhere, but one that needs to become mainstream. And that is the particular reason for which, at Nation Media Group, changing cycles for us is not just an event. It's not a thing we discuss today and forget about. It's an issue we carry out of this room. Because, and for this reason, when we sat down and thought about this topic, the issue about menstrual equity is a big one for us. However, It's one, when you're at a meeting, I think we were discussing with Janet, you have to convince a lot of people that it's a subject that is important. And you will hear a lot of statistics this afternoon, and I'll not go into them. But the reason that Nation Media Group sees this as important is because we have a platform. We have voices that are doing things that nobody really never gets to hear of. So as Nation Media Group, we can amplify these voices. And so with changing cycles, we intend to have this as a platform and an event that focuses on promoting period awareness and empowering and ensuring education for communities that need to hear this message, but also for communities that need to understand that we know about them, we know they exist, and we are finding partners, many of you who are seated here, to ensure that this just doesn't become their problem. And we aim to tackle challenges of period poverty and generate public interest and support and create momentum, not only for policy level, but also for people who produce products, and for also girls who need to be empowered, and to ensure that we are able to promote gender equality and social justice. As we think about what period poverty is to you and me, I am female. Most of you seated in this room are female. Muitiriri can joke a lot and say about his daughters, who will soon get into the adolescent cycle. But this is the question, is that while they may have an opportunity to go to school comfortably because they can afford, there are girls in this country who do not have that opportunity. And so what we aim to do with this platform is to ensure young girls and women who face this challenge are able to find solutions. But what we also try to do at Nation Media Group is to give these stories a human face. A lot of times you hear about statistics being thrown around. 1 million girls cannot go to school because of periods. There are faces behind these people. So first and foremost, our commitment as Nation Media Group is education. It's to sit with people who work with those communities, who create those products, who see these challenges. We are not subject matter experts as Nation Media Group, but we do have platforms that can amplify these voices. We do have platforms that can bring many of us together to address this issue. From education, what we would also like to see is a drive to change. Has government done enough? I mean, we have Cicely seated here with us, but is that enough? How can we influence policy? And in conclusion, let us remember, and I keep saying, that menstrual equity is not a distant dream, but is an urgent necessity. And by addressing period poverty, we can create a more just and equal society where all girls, not just those of us in this room that can afford to be sat here because we were invited or because we had ability or funds to be able to come here, but we can also flourish. The solutions exist, so it's fantastic. I think when you find a moment, please walk out and see what people are doing in terms of providing these solutions. The solutions exist through education. There are people who are driving for affordability. There's policy advocacy, community engagement, and collaboration, which is what we are nurturing here today. Because there's nothing as good as nurturing the future of a girl so that no girl is held back by biology. So together, let us work tirelessly to end period poverty. And together, let's join Nation Media Group in this cause. And to finish, as I give the remarks of my boss, those were his written remarks. So let me bore you with the traditional, those were my boss's remarks. I facilitated him to write them. No, I shall not do that. There are people who look very, very worried that I might go into another 20 minutes. But to finish, because a lot of times as women in certain causes that we pick, and as there are men who also support us, sometimes we feel alone. Sometimes we feel like nobody understands that I have a bad mood every month because of something I don't necessarily have control of. That I have to be so careful every time in a month that when I wake up, I wonder what has it flowed out. And I have a choice of getting a tampon, a better pad. But there's a girl out there who every month chooses a few days that they do not go to school. And so even as we trudge along and even as we try to make sure that these solutions you're providing you as our partners and these things we're doing as Nation Media Group, I end with a quote from Hillary Clinton. Never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it. And I repeat it again. Never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it. So thank you very much for joining us as we begin and as we continue the conversation around changing cycles. And we pray that by the time you're done with it, you'll find someone in your table. You'll find someone across the aisle. You'll reach out to someone else who you could not have met, save for the fact that Nation Media Group put this event together. And once you harness that power of collaboration, then we can sit here next year and say that number was 1 million. That number is now down to 900,000. That number is now down to they're not missing 4 days of school. We've made sure this school, and that other. That's what we hope will happen as Nation Media Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Monica, for those remarks. And clearly, the Nation Media Group is putting its money where its mouth is. And you know that is where they're committed. It's easy to talk, right? But taking that first step, making that contribution, however little it is where we make all the difference. And even the staff of the Nation Media Group just this week on Thursday donated sanitary towels out of their paychecks, out of their personal collection, for use by girls in a school in Dagoretti South. So makofi kwa Nation Media Group.
Kidogo sababu ni Nation inapigiwa makofi na hapo ndipo tunapata unga kidogo tusiende kupigwa nje. Na mdosi yuko hapa. Tumpigie makofi ya kilo mazuri, si ile ya chifu. Hiyo makofi mabaya hayo. Nishikie niwafundishe mengine sababu muda naambiwa umeyoyoma sana. Nikisema kalabanda mnapiga hivi. Wacha niwafundishe. Kalabanda. You are not very good students but you are trying. You are at average. Kalabanda. 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 If I say señorita times 2 of that, señorita times 2. Tumeshika like this. You are good students. I know mshashika. Aya, kalabanda. 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 Señorita. Excelente.
Here you go. Clearly, he watches soaps. So,
I used to.
But at this point, I'd like to invite our next speaker. You've already met her, and that is Cicely Kariuki. She's the chair, Noni Kariuki Foundation. And just give me a quick minute to mention why I think this is important to you. You will verify. But in a few weeks' time, your daughter passed away about 2 years ago. After that, you founded the Noni Kariuki Foundation. And this is part of the causes you have taken up. You provide scholarships to children, I think at least 2 as of last year, several going into secondary school. And the other reason this is important to her is also because when she was Minister of Health, she signed the first ever menstrual hygiene management policy as Cabinet Secretary for Health in 2019. So makofi kwako, and now I will invite you to make your remarks.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, and if you will allow me to say good afternoon to all of us. I didn't know that there was going to be part of sitting here was also going to be a celebration of sorts and a bit of fun. Allow me, Monica, and to the family called NMG to appreciate you very, very heartily for 2 things. One, finding it fit to use your platforms and your convening power to invite all of us here this afternoon. And importantly, finding it fit that Cicely Kariuki, former CS Health, could also offer some opening remarks to just put things in context. But allow me to also say exactly about 5 days from today is when my daughter, lovely Noni, went to be with the Lord 3 years ago. Now, she was an intern with UNFPA, and while there, she crisscrossed the slums of Nairobi between Mathare, Kibra, And one of her passions was actually to speak to girls her age and younger about how the girl's young body functions and exactly what it means to be on a period. And in the process, she moved around also distributing pads, which the family supported her to do. And just as we were at the tail end of formulating a foundation for Nune, she had to move where we'll all move. And so to immortalize her acts at year 21 years, the family found it fit to go ahead and register an NGO, Noni Karaoke Foundation. And yes, we have children in school. We have adopted children who are in an orphanage, big one, about 100 of them. We do support very, very needy and special girls and young women. Our space is the most vulnerable in terms of disability or specially abled. Some of them can't speak. Some of them can't see. Some can't walk. Some don't have very good cognitive abilities. And so for a girl in Kenya, it's not only bad enough to be on a period that we don't speak about. You can imagine what happens when you can't talk. And so I'm here, one, because of that, but importantly also because of the spaces I have been. When I was a CS for youth and gender affairs, I crisscrossed this country. I went to upwards of 250 constituencies. And in the process, I met girls, young girls and women. And I could relate with the struggles that you're shy to have a conversation around the biological functioning of your body. And nobody will listen. And when you're sick, it is worse that you can't even tell your dad what you're going through because we don't speak about periods in Kenya. Period. Your mother, who is struggling to put food on the table, just in the event that her biological processes are a little bit different and she doesn't have to go through the pain that Monica has talked about, won't understand either. She won't even induct you into what it means to actually experience a period. Period. But allow me, on the second bit of our celebration here today, allow me to celebrate the actors who've been there long before I even came into those spaces. We have our development partners, the UNICEF, the USAID, the UNFPA, where Noni interned, the AMREFs, and a lot of them that supported me even when I was designing the policy and the strategy. Allow me to also recognize all the other actors, from the manufacturers to the people working at the grassroots where I am working. It's because of you that Nation finds it fit to give us a platform, because there are people doing a great thing. They never get to be celebrated, but allow me to just celebrate you today. Allow me to particularly single out the grassroots actors. In rural Kenya, in Wajir, where I've been, Habaswen, in Mandera, where I've been, in Homa Bay, where I've been, and where girls don't talk about being on a period. I want to recognize strategic allies such as Nation Media Group for coming into the space and wanting to give us voice to be able to talk and talk some more. And obviously, we want to recognize the government, where I have been. I'm sure they're represented here, and all the other actors. Now, Batha, my role was not to even give a vote of thanks, but I think it would be careless of me if I didn't recognize that, because that's the only reason I was able to move from point A, B, and now you took off and are already moving towards D, E, and moving all the way to Z. So one then wonders, so why am I here, Cicely? One, it is a hat that I wear on behalf of my family, behalf of friends and partners that have been supporting the foundation, but importantly, the experiences that I carried while I was a minister for youth, gender, and later on, when I came to health in 2018, and I found a protracted process of a team that was struggling to put together the policy, but without much traction, without much energy. And therefore, I did summon them, given the experience that I had had as a lady and the experience that I had as a minister in gender. And we agreed quickly we were going to hasten the process of consulting the stakeholders and quickly process the policy out. Forever grateful, because as soon as I left the space, I signed on it and it was launched officially the year that I left the ministry. But importantly, perhaps I am here because today, as we sit here, as we speak, there's a young girl in rural Kenya who perhaps is going through body shaming, period shaming, pardon me, because they don't have the products. They have messed their dress. The young boy or the young man shaming the girl as we speak here isn't aware what they are doing, because we haven't perhaps educated the men and boys that it is a societal issue we are handling. And therefore, while they shame, we have a duty. We are being called then to help these young men and boys to be part of the conversation, to be able, instead of shaming, to encourage our girls and young women. Equally important, today as we sit here, it is possible somewhere in rural Kenya, a girl missed school yesterday. Of the 1 million that we speak about, 4 days, she won't be attending school. 5 days, she may not attend school. Compound that, up to 6 weeks. This girl, a foregone opportunity, will struggle, may negate where she's going as she grows up. As to whether she can reach where we are and be in Safari Park, only God knows. But she has missed substantial time out of school, not because of anything that she can be blamed for, just because biology happens. And right now, somewhere in Kenya, a girl or a young mother is queuing, waiting to be attended to by a healthcare worker. Why? Because she's either picked an infection out of using dirty clothes, toilet paper, or just simply walking around in underpants without the products. And so she has picked a urinary tract infection. Now, we don't know how that will span out when she goes into childbearing stage. That is what, Monica, you spoke about. It is not statistics. It is a reality in terms of where we find our young girls and women. The latest survey tells us 1.2% of Kenyan women can't, at this point in time, independent Kenya, afford the product. The study goes ahead to tell us 0.5% of the Kenyan population, we female population, use underwears. And it must be unimaginable how then you move around. Today, in one of the urban settings in Kenya today, we have a mother who was set to go work, get wages to place food on the table today. She won't do it because she doesn't have the product. Now, it moves away from economics, it moves to the reality that this woman struggling somewhere in Kibra won't be able to get her daily wages, and therefore the children, the family, will go unfed. So the conversation we are having here is bigger than the numbers. It is bigger than the girls. It is bigger than what we did and what we didn't do. Perhaps it is bigger as we plot where we want to take this conversation through action. Now, let me say, as I come to close this, say that as I was reflecting what this means and what this, for us as stakeholders who are privileged to sit here, what it means, is that we can be part of the solution. It isn't a far-fetched dream that period poverty in years to come could be a thing of the past that will celebrate and say, we have normalized the conversations. We have not only normalized the conversations, but we have our new champions by bringing in our men and young boys to be part of this very vital conversation. It's an economic conversation. It's a social conversation. It's even a political policy conversation. Let me also propose that we can be part of the solution by stepping up the ongoing advocacy work. There's so much more to be done. Our girls in schools and institutions of higher learning require to do their thing in privacy. They need facilities. We need water, and as fate would have it, as I moved towards the water ministry, it occurred to me the responsibility is not escaping anytime soon from me. Sign the policy, you go to the other side, and you need to sign on staff to make sure that part of what you do is avail water, in particular the public schools where we don't have water. But I'm also urging the stakeholders that we need privacy, even with the water and facilities. Ladies and gentlemen, our mothers who are working in factories and other commercial settings need facilities so that we are not exposed to what we saw in Lemuru not long ago. They need to be educated as well, but be allowed some wiggle room to do their thing. How about legislation? The policy is there, the strategy is there. How are we progressing the conversation there? How do we need to bring the government in to perhaps help us with a better coordinating mechanism, which was one of the policy objectives, so that we have a more coherent, a holistic approach to interventions around ending period poverty. I'll conclude by saying as well that we need to be able to ensure part of the conversation addresses the cost, affordability, access in those very remote areas. But finally, I want to offer and say that as soon as we are normalizing the conversation around menstrual hygiene, health and hygiene, collaboration is the new normal. Partnership becomes the new normal. For the manufacturer, for the policy maker, for the development partner, for the grassroots actor, for the media guys, and any other Kenya of goodwill. I therefore want to urge us to view this journey as if it belongs to all of us. I'm here because I'm convinced, working together, we can inch faster, closer to ending period poverty in Kenya. Finally, allow me to borrow the words of one great lady, one Mother Teresa, and she says, "None of us ever do great things." And I was a bit surprised, because we all think we are doing a great thing. She goes ahead to say, "But we all can do small things with great love, and together we can do something wonderful." How I pray that what comes out of our convening here today is something wonderful. But we do it with love, and we do it as a system, and we do it all together. I won't conclude this conversation without recognizing Neville. Neville, you'll be here. Neville, are you here? Neville Okwaro. I wanted to celebrate him just because he's one of the teams, my technical teams while I was at ministry, that was pushing and every time keeping me updated how the policy was progressing. And he's still one of our greatest champions in this place. Never mind, he's a gentleman. Demystifying the conversation, because it's not a girl's conversation. It's not a mother's conversation. Allow me to stop there, because, you know, when you get out of those big places, you don't have audiences. And when you do, then you keep talking. Allow me to sign off by saying, yours truly, I'm looking forward to playing my part. Please, please, play your part, and let's make progress. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Makofi kwake. Makofi ya kilo. Hayo ni makofi ambayo yana wivu kidogo, lakini thank you so very much. We appreciate you, Waziri. Asante. Huyu ni nani tena? Atasubiria kidogo.
Alright.
Tumpigie makofi mazuri, sio? Haya, wacha nafundisha ya mwisho. Haya. Fanyeni hivi. Tufanye hivyo. Weka biriganya kidogo. Viazi karai. Tomato. Weka nini nyingine? Nini nyingine Waswahili wa Mombasa mpo? Angusha. Imechelewa jamani. Ongeza. Matunda gani? Parachichi hivi?
Umesahau chumvi.
Chumvi.
Yeah.
Kesho kutwa jamani. Parachichi, mchicha. We nawe. Angusha. Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Fred. Quick announcement, KBM 180Q, KCE 266V. If you can please go to your vehicles, move them, I imagine. This is why we've been doing
absolutely,
this?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not a present or something. But anyway, I love that Mheshimiwa Kariuki spoke about water. You know, because it's not just about the pads. There has to be water. Because of hygiene, there are disposal issues, and part of what we'll be getting into this afternoon is disposability, and also how can we make them eco-friendly? How can we make them eco-friendly? So that is actually, I'm glad to note, I took a look at the MHM policy, and that is contained in there, especially where schools are concerned. And I'm curious, because we have also perimenstrual symptoms. I Googled that one. Some of the things that accompany your periods. Bloating, my worst symptom is bloating, man. I feel like I'm a balloon. If you prick me, I am going to explode. And so the whole time I'm like, especially when I have to be on TV. And the pain. You know what I'm talking about, ladies? This is part of the conversation we are talking about.
The men in the house.
Painkillers. You know, you're uncomfortable even when you sit. Period, man. Nisaidie na kiti chako.
Period, man.
When you sit, you have to sit with plan. You can't just sit. You sit where? Edge of the seat. And you can't just stand. You look around, make sure there's nobody hanging around behind you. Hi, Fresha. Then you sit and then you go. You confirm, we are okay. And then you continue about your business.
I used to think it's the skirt that you're trying to put together. Oh.
You confirm you are okay. Here you go. And when you're in school, how many of you tied your sweaters around your waist? You know, because you want to feel confident and comfortable enough to move around. Now, just imagine if you don't have a sanitary towel. When you have to use cloth, you have to be worried about the smell, you know. I was talking to Janet on Tuesday, and you were talking about part of the reason you started in Wadada was because there's a feature story, I believe, aired when you were at Citizen TV, and it talked about girls using chicken feathers and goat hide. And some of this, you shared the story on the Inuadada website, and there have been a lot of quotes today, but something I picked from your website.
Hold still. I used to, sasa wacha nikuwe serious kidogo. Nimefanya kazi na USAID, miaka yangu ya ujana. Now, one of the programs that we used to have is called Afya 2. And tulikuwa nafanya kazi Kibira, kwa Jenga, kwa Ruben, na mimi najua kutengeneza sodo, na nguo, na karatasi. I'm saying this because I'm also a former police officer, and I worked in the deserts of Isiolo and Garissa. And one of the things that I noted, I used to be in the children's desk, is that wasichana wadogo, ukifika ni huo wakati, they used to go to the desert. There ni sand peke yake. Wanaketi between 3 to 5 hours. Then they go home. And they're not going to school. So I'm telling you statistics that I know as a former police officer. That is many, many years ago, about 15 years ago or thereabout. So, and I know the situation is changing. And I hope through these conversations, you can see now the picture and start thinking about the girls who are not as privileged as you are. Endelea.
Thank you very much for that, Fred. And you know, that's part of the reason men ukituma mwanaume akusaidia kutolea kitu kwenye handbag anakwambia anakupatia handbag mzima. Unaweza dhani kuna nyoka hapo humo ndani. Wanaogopa labda hiyo pads. But speaking of the many quotes we've heard today, and part of what Fred is doing is actually contributing to this conversation, because I picked something from the Inuadada website, and that is, it takes 1,000 voices to tell a single story. True. And Janet Mbugua, seated here, is not only the founder of Inuadada, she's also an author. 50 stories contained in the book, My First Time. And she shared her first time with me the other day in studio. And I will leave her to tell the story herself if she's willing. But I remember I was lucky enough to be introduced to what periods are and pads are in school. And I remember the first time I got my period, I was so excited because I got to use a pad for the first time, you know? There was just that excitement about now I am a woman. I am a woman, and it is something to celebrate. It is not a taboo, and that is part of what we'll get into with Jennifer, because there are cultural issues, there are religious issues, and women on their periods are considered unclean. And therefore, they're considered that you can occupy certain spaces at that time of the month. Up to 4 days, girls, missing school. So a lot of issues we'll get into here, but I want to invite Janet Mugwa. She's our keynote speaker this afternoon to come and speak. And I saw a post of hers last year, September, goalkeepers. And on the poster, there was her right at the center, and there was Bill Gates, Melinda Gates. Who else was on that poster? And I was like, I know people. I know people, and you're amazing. I remember one of the quotes, because we're giving lots of quotes today, was one by Kate Bush, a song. So I am honored at this point to invite you to the podium to give us your keynote address.
Magofi jamani, asante sana Janet, mwanahabari aliyetutoka.
Wow, thank you, Francis, Olive, the Nation Media Group, and everyone. I have my thank you remarks at the end of my speech, so I'm going to save it for then. I'm a bag of emotions today because I don't really think I ever saw this day coming. So everybody woosa with me, woosa. For those who've walked the journey, Kena Megan and all, and Waziri, as she's just spoken. Before I get into my remarks, let's just make sure that every table has received some bracelets and forms, which I will explain in just a few moments. So I'm going to go into my remarks, and like I said, I'll give my thanks towards the end of this. I buy 2 pads a month, and I'm forced to share these with my sister. This means that there are days I go without the availability of pads when I need them, and while I'm fortunate that my periods are mostly not heavy, I still face undue stress and uncertainty. In worst-case scenarios, I may not have any pads at all when I most need them. That's from Leah, aged 18. They're usually the worst days of my life, and my cramps can be unbelievably painful. A couple of times, the pain and heavy flow have rendered me unconscious. But my worst fear is always not being equipped to handle my period. That's Joanne. I was 17 years old when I played around with a boy, and the next thing, I was pregnant. Nobody had told me that when I start my periods, I can fall pregnant, and a lot of us don't have this information. I'm now 22. That's Liz. Those are the testimonials that continue to reach us. Some of these were from literally just a few days ago and represent millions of our girls' and women's lived experiences during their menstruation. And this is really not new information for a lot of us in this room. There's a lot of menstrual champions I'm seeing all over this room. This is not new. But I'm really glad that we're all here. We're gathered in numbers, we're dressed in a touch of white or all white. We're live on NTV, Kenya, who I will thank alongside others at the end of my keynote. We're making history and we're making progress. But the hard truth is that we're also here to celebrate our collective failure to our girls and women. For every forward step we take, we face pushbacks from lifelong prejudices and insensitivities couched in suitable and sometimes patronizing tones. Why on earth do we have to continue to strive to advocate for a process that is a gift of nature, one that helps many of us identify literally as the human race? Why is it difficult to recognize this as a permanent and necessary part of womanhood and to accord it the dignity that it so urgently deserves? Unlike many other circumstances in which the shedding of blood is preceded or accompanied by trauma, menstruation is unique. It's non-traumatic. And it does so to serve a unique purpose. This is the way that the Creator designed it. But as a society, we've grossly mismanaged it and have made the menstrual flow traumatic for millions of girls and women around the world. So it's pretty sad that in the last few decades, we have sent people to the moon, robots to Mars, we're on the threshold of flying cars, and we have phones that are 5,000 times more powerful than a supercomputer of the 1980s. And I mean, Kenya, for instance, has literally changed the course of mobile payments. We're pioneers. And all of these are incredible milestones. I'm not downplaying any of them, but we haven't resolved period poverty for millions of girls and women. We've done everything else but that. We have to strategize far more effectively in order for us to reduce and then hopefully end this inhumanity. The 20th day of May is what is used to mark World Menstrual Hygiene Day. And this year's theme was the simple goal of making menstruation a normal fact of life by 2030. But after a decade of striving for a new world where menstruation is treated as the normal, natural fact of life for Earth's population, a world where all of those who menstruate have access to basic products needed to manage it, where no one feels irrational shame or embarrassment around this normal and necessary bodily function, we're still a long way away. And this takes me back to what Olive just said. Back in 2013, a little bit about my story and perhaps how I've landed here. While I was working in the newsroom as a reporter and a producer, the team at Citizen aired a story called Periods of Shame. Does anyone remember that story? Periods of Shame. It showed girls in Marigat in Baringo County using unsanitary products, chicken feathers, goat hide, soil, because they couldn't access sanitary products. And there's a huge thank you to people like Farida, Karone, Lulu, Hassan, and Judy Kosgei, because they essentially produced it. And Beatrice Wafula is the social worker from the school who brought this issue to our attention. So as a result, they were missing out on school during their periods, getting genital and related infections, and being forced into risk-taking activities in order to survive, often resulting in unwanted teen pregnancies. Unfortunately, this did little to awaken society's determination to deal with the root cause, the social stigma that results in lack of education around menstruation, fertility, and sex. The story was the catalyst for what would be the next decade of my life. It motivated me to want to know and end what we would come to know as period poverty, as well as scaling access to information and products. And so I founded Inua Dada, which translates in Swahili to uplift a sister, registered it, and many years later I've collaborated with media houses, NGOs, the Kenyan government, and other mainstream conversations around periods and sexual reproductive health and rights, as well as intersectional issues such as gender-based violence and financial inclusion. It really hit home when I was researching for my book, my first time. This is what it looks like, and there's copies outside, or you can talk to the team to purchase a copy. I realized that in order to supplement efforts around ending period stigma, we needed to tell stories. I'm a storyteller as well, I'm a content creator. And so I was able to publish a book with over 50 stories of people, men and women, recounting their first menstrual experiences, a book which is the first of its kind to become part of the State House Resource Center when I was invited to present it to the former First Lady of Kenya. The Inua Dada Foundation has since established a center where we've hired women who were previously in financial hardship to produce sanitary towels and to distribute to schools. We continue to keep advocacy at the heart of everything we do by making sure that children harness their agency through Generation Parliament program. And I would like to recognize my team, if they can just stand where they are. They're incredible. Feni, Velma, Cynthia, Amina, Romanas couldn't be, Arthur as well. Romanas couldn't be with us. He's also a core part of our team. They are essentially the engine of the foundation. But a lot of gaps remain. And we've been fighting for this basic right for a decade now. And at times, I don't know how everyone else feels in this room, it just feels like an uphill struggle. Do you guys feel the struggle sometimes? You do. I think people who've been in this space completely understand that it is a struggle. I really hope to see menstrual justice become a priority. We have to have an all-inclusive way that we can do this. It may seem like it's just a pad, but it represents so much more. Such a basic thing can mean comfort and hygiene. It also means freedom to leave the house. It can mean access to education. It can mean the eradication of shame. It can mean hope for the future. There's been so many people who've made tremendous gains. I cannot list everyone. There's a few shout-outs coming, and if you don't hear your name, you shout it from the room. We've already heard from Waziri Cicely Kariuki, and I want to thank her and the government of Kenya, what Senator Gloria Orwoba did as well for agitating for change, UNFPA, UNICEF, AMREF, USAID Mission, led by Beverly Mademba, WKSP, partners like the PAD Project, Mama Ibado, schools in Kariobangi, Heals for Pads, PADMAD, Zana Africa, Stay Not Shame with Mega, who is also in the room, a huge campaign that became national with Kotex, Neville Okwaro, the Kaka Empire, This Is Me community, I know they're somewhere in the room, Gen Z representing. Amwick Abby Chebet, I think is also here. Yes, there she is, student. Femela, who I've had the honor to meet today as well. A global citizen, Kenya, led by Daisy, who I can see in the room. Is there anybody I've left out? Shout your name. You have a few seconds on air to shout your name from wherever you are. Pad, period man, who else? Akili Dada, thank you. Teen Table, right? What's that? My Flow. Okay, there's a reason I'm doing this, guys. We have to be a lot more collaborative than we are. A lot more. And obviously, the biggest thank you today is to Monica and the Nation Media Group. We really, I don't think you realize how progressive, ahead of your time this is, to Olive and Francis and Bertha, who's been at the heart of it as well. Amidst all this good, we've never harnessed the knowledge and profiled the work and shared learnings to look at how best we can collaborate together. So we're actually announcing the formation of an alliance which will start with many in this room who have been watching and waiting for this moment to mobilize together. You know that famous African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm saying this with conviction, having been in the space for a decade. There has to be a moment. Alfred Muli as well, I didn't recognize Alfred. He's a huge male menstrual champion and the period man. Thank you for everything you do. And so we have forms on each table that hopefully you'll be able to leave your details, that we can reach out and talk about what's going to happen next. But it's time that we became intentionally collaborative, intentionally united, and intentionally pushing for justice in the right way. We cannot keep coming back to these forums and sessions. We can't keep doing this. Or if we are, to Monica's point, are we looking at the numbers going down? It may seem like a lot of us are saying things that have been said many times, but a lot of us are speaking from experience and speaking from the fact that it hurts us every day that you've pushed for change and advocated and been on global stages, and yet there is a deprioritization of women and girls' rights. It's almost like, let's handle everything else and then we'll come to you. But we are half of the population, surely. I think we deserve to be cared for the same way, because it all comes down to how much do we care for our women and girls, truly. Because if we prioritize them, then we won't have this issue. And so let's take that home today. How much are you willing to do with whatever you have, wherever you are, in whatever capacity? No voice is too small, no action is too small, no money is too little. Everybody here can make the slightest difference. Progress is fragile, and it's triggering, and it's difficult, but it's worth it. And the fight and the push is worth it. I know you'll wake up tomorrow and be like, I could have just chosen a soft life. I could have chosen to do anything but be an activist. But in this room because you care enough. So for me, please don't stop caring. It's easy to stop. 10 years in, I have also asked myself these questions. But I wake up every day saying, I know period poverty can end in my generation. I see my sons who have enough agency, it even frightens me sometimes. So the next generation, we need to also pass the baton to the young influencers and activists who are playing their part. But promise me, show of hand, who's going to play their part after this? Hands up high. This is on air. If your hand is down, you'll answer your family and friends later. Please, let's make sure that we're doing our bit. So, again, I want to thank Nation Media for mainstreaming the conversation today in a big way, to the entire team, management, editorial, because without mainstream media, this topic would continue to go under the radar. And without the digital space, which has grown exponentially over the last decade, we would not be gathered as a diverse group, holding the space accountable. Some of the ways that we can end this is by amplifying existing programs, scaling grassroots and sustainable interventions, political goodwill, implementation of policies, resourcing, data, validating menstrual disorders, having menstrual health policies as a core part of the workplace to avoid incidents like the one that played out a few weeks ago, having persons with disability and other actors involved in this space, introducing menstrual leave, and many other ways. And so as I close, I want to thank you all in this room who have watched, and I encourage you to make menstruation and other matters on reproductive health and rights a conversation you can have with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your children, your policymakers, and your partners. And as I finish, I think I have 1 more minute on the clock. For those of you who have this bracelet, if we can just wear it right now together in solidarity. I can hear Francis asking, bullying somebody, not even asking. Okay, if you have it on, maybe you could raise your hand so that we see it. We were hoping that every single person could get it, but thank you for standing in solidarity with women and girls menstruating all across the country and across the world. Thank you, God bless you, keep fighting, it's worth it. Thank you.
Asante sana. Makofi kwake.
Janet, you know, his voice is on account of his history as a police officer. And Fred, Fred, please know people so that they can know you also.
Ni sababu amjui maafande. Amjui maafande. Mimi kwa mkutasari nasikia kama anasema bado mapambano, mapambano, mapambano. Hivyo ndivyo nasikia. Vijana musilale.
Lale, lale, vijana
mnaniangusha jamani. Hata kama ni wimbo wa siasa. Mapambano, bado mapambano, mapambano, mapambano.
Bado mapambano.
Wazee musilale.
Lale, lale, wazee msilale.
Bado mapambano, mapambano, mapambano. There's a lot of work to be done. That is what Janet is saying. And I hope we are here and we are ready.
All right. Maybe you should have said mubabas.
Hiyo ndio watasikia haraka.
Hiyo ndio wataelewa ukisema wazee. And what is coming up for me is this is a dignity issue. And I've seen Helen somewhere. Helen Jerry Mwangi, co-founder, Power 254. And so if it's a dignity issue, it's a human rights. It's a human rights issue. And when I was doing a little bit of reading, you know, I read.
Nakumbushwa kwamba hatukumpigia makofi na yeye ndio chief guest. Nakumbushwa hapa anasema makofi yake iko wapi? Tumpigie makofi moja ya kilo sio? Ajitayarisheni kwa makofi, 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 makofi. Nishikie hapa.
Haya.
Fungua kila mtu. Fungua, angusha, unafungua Coca-Cola. Mnajua sio? Fungua, unaangusha. Tena mara ya mwisho fungua, unaangusha Coca-Cola, angusha. Beautiful.
Yeah, I want to do.
Oh, you want to do? Aya, fungua. Angusha. Beautiful. Oh, ingine.
Yes.
Uno wapi? Aya, fungua, angusha. Lovely.
I love the And I said I was doing some reading. And why I was doing some reading is because I was researching one of the panelists I will be calling up to stage at this point. And his name is Eric Simba. And he works with the Christian-based camps of Kenya. He's somewhere with the bow tie. Here you are, Eric. And Eric, as I mentioned, you unaweza anza kupanda huku.
Jukwani.
I came across
a seat number.
Unaweza anza hapa mwisho. And I came across a story that was published in the Star, and it quotes one of your community health volunteers. No, here you go, Eric. Yeah. One of your community health volunteers, and her name... Sorry, actually, her name is Jane, and she said the issue of menstrual hygiene should be addressed adequately, especially in the slums where water has always been a challenge. And somebody else who was quoted in this particular one is the former Machakos Health Executive, Anset Kituku, who said, sanitary pads should be tax-free. Government should ensure there is equity in accessing sanitary pads, just as it has made it a policy to provide free condoms.
Yeah.
All right, so I was talking to another gentleman, but because I want to mix it up a little bit, I will first invite Megan, and she's called Megan White Mukuria. She's a Kenyan, guys. She's been working in this space since 2007. And she founded Zana Africa in 2008. And I was listening to her speak, and she was talking about how they transitioned to non-wood pulps on large-scale machines. She'll be telling us whether they've scaled up, because I know that was the next phase. And I was listening to this in 2016. And you had what, 20,000 pads commercially available but she'll tell us where they are with that. How, is it sugarcane is being used? No. Okay, many things. So we'll hear about that. Now, the other gentleman I want to call up to the stage is Rajiv Joshi. He's the CEO, Sai Pharmaceuticals. Karibu. And I was chatting with him a little bit earlier, right before we started, and he was saying, okay, it's great to talk about affordability and accessibility, but then he talked about the women, for example, in Marigat, the story that Janet Mbugwa was telling us about, and you have to make a choice between food, water, and pads. And he's saying the conversation needs to shift to no cost, free of cost, sanitary. All right, so he says, we've just said free condoms, free sanitary pads. We'll be hearing from him. I am now inviting a lady who is no stranger to many a screen, and no stranger to me at least, and I'd like to invite her. She is not only a professional, not only a psychologist, she is a certified professional coach, Jennifer Karina Makofi Kwake, and she'll be speaking about those taboos that surround periods. So I'm happy to have all of you here with me on this panel. Let me also walk up and take my seat. Thank you. All right, and do we all have microphones next to us? I believe we should. You can grab it, turn it on. Jennifer, this one's yours. And it should have, you turn it on until there's a green light.
Check 1, 2.
Eric, do you have a mic somewhere near you? Oh, there you go. They've handed you one. All right, so I have introduced them, but I will start with Megan. And Megan, you started, you came to Kenya while in college. You were working with street children. And you realized there was a need, the second most expensive thing they had to get was sanitary towels.
Yes.
And you also realized that there is a need for education, health education for girls and women. And I watched a presentation you did, and you said you get questions around pimples, why do I have pimples, and this was the most disturbing for you, at least from my interpretation of your reaction, was why when I get raped, when I report it, nothing happens? Because this is an issue that also it's not only political, but it also has to do with predators who take advantage of these girls who do not have access to sanitary towels. But first, tell us why this cause is so special to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Yeah, I had the privilege of working for 5 years with very vulnerable girls and former street children, and I learned from them. So I found out that our #2 biggest cost for girls every month was sanitary pads, and then we had many, many late-night conversations just answering questions honestly. And it's so hard for us as adults to answer questions, right? Adolescents have questions about healthy relationships or how to get out of unhealthy relationships or what's normal down there. And we need a lot of education to help that. But it's really sometimes a life or death issue. And so I realized we needed to combine these two things, pads and rights-based health education, in order to really make inroads into the root causes of poverty for women, because it's very much a gender equity thing, it's very much of a justice issue, and it's an economic issue as well. It's all of those things. It's not just a reproductive health issue. But without answers to their questions, as well as the products, girls cannot, and women cannot live the lives that they want to choose. Things like consent that they don't know. And so that's why we came up with both a curriculum that is now being scaled with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and a product, because we had to do both.
And that's NIA.
That's NIA, yeah.
Yeah, and you, Zana Africa, it's innovation in the area of pads, innovation in the area of health education, because you have comics, a magazine, I'm not sure that you still publish the magazine, but also you produce data. There is a project you have in Kilifi, right?
Yeah, we did a 2-year randomized control trial. So it's actually the largest data set in Africa around the impact of pads and reproductive health education, as well as combined and without, on girls' educational outcomes following class 7 students for 2 years. And we found that with pads and health education, it really had an amplifying effect. So when they had both, for example, they were able to overcome a taboo of not being able to play sports, right? Girls are told, oh, don't play sports. But then when they played sports, Their cramps felt better. God didn't smite them. You know, the world didn't end. And they suddenly experientially understood social norms versus human rights and made a choice for human rights that very quickly cascaded into saying boys and girls are equal in the classroom and to say moms have a right to not be beaten by dads, right? We also changed knowledge of very specific reproductive health outcomes like knowledge of pregnancy. A lot of girls get pregnant because they don't know how pregnancy works, right? So if you don't know how to get pregnant, you don't know how to avoid getting pregnant, right? So we help address those issues very decisively. So the comics are actually part of a set book of 5 magazines that are a curriculum, and that's what KICD is now choosing to put into the curriculum from class 5 to class 8 to help solve these issues once and for all in this next generation and the rising generations, to end period shame, to help educate around menstruation, to help ensure gender equality so that all boys and girls can participate fully in society.
And actually, I saw some data that 1 in 4 girls actually did not understand the correlation between getting to your reproductive age and pregnancy.
Yeah, a lot of girls think you won't get pregnant if you have sex standing up. You know, many are taboos that we have to address. And the problem with the opportunity really with menstrual taboos and menstrual questions is they open up these conversation spaces to start talking about all these real things that we all have questions about but don't have that safe space to address. And then girls and women can then make decisions in line with their own values so that they can do what they want to do.
All right. Rajiv, Sai Pharmaceuticals not only produces sanitary towels, Pampers as well. I was chatting with somebody and they're like, is it Nip? Nip-Nap.
Nip-Nap.
All right, so that's one of the products they manufacture. But as we're chatting, you're saying this conversation needs to move beyond accessibility and affordability towards free of cost.
Yeah, true.
And why is that? Why do you say that?
So good afternoon, and thank you so much. You know why I say free of cost? Because what segment of the women population are we addressing? Now, people were talking about women in Marsabit and Turkana. So people, and as the former CS said, they don't even have, the food to eat. And do you think somebody who's trying to struggle for the meal will have money to buy a sanitary pad? Certainly not. So it has to go free of cost to them. This is affordability, this is how I'm describing affordability. We can't say that a pad which is available for, let's say 60 shillings in Nairobi, we give it to them for 30 shillings. It will not work like that. So as you rightly said, CS, that every stakeholder has to play his part and in a very dedicated manner and with full honesty, So I am one part of the supply chain. Sai is one part of the supply chain. We are producing. We can be the part of accessibility. We can be the part of, a little part of affordability. We can say that, okay, we give to the market at this price, and probably we can give it, for this program, we can give at this particular price. But then there must be defined donors, I'll say. People, at the end of the day, even if it doesn't make too much of commercial sense for Sai, it has to be a sustainable program for Sai. If we are producing, then we are paying for our raw materials, we are paying for, if suppose accessibility, then we have to take those pads so that it reaches women in Marsabit and Turkana, which is a cost, right? So there must be some fund which should come, and which could come, like, let me give an example of HIV, So when this issue came up, people got together and then there was funding, which came from organizations like, USAID, and in this program particularly, all these organizations can come up, provided they are made to understand the gravity of this whole issue, how big this issue is. For me, this issue is related to women's empowerment. We are depriving, like today in Kenya, the sex ratio is 50-50. And 50% of the women are being deprived of getting into good jobs. When they drop out from the schools, they are privy to early marriages, and then, you know what happens after that. That's society now. So they don't land up getting jobs or good jobs or whatever. So you're also depriving them of their women. It's an issue of women's empowerment.
And productivity.
And productivity.
Yes.
You can't deprive 50% of your human resource, which can contribute towards the overall development of this country. Right? So this is the gravity of this issue. And I'm telling you, you just said that 65% of the women are not privy to sanitary pads.
Yes.
Or any kind of other health and sexual, education or anything. I mean, this is in Kenya. Kenya today is the most developed country in sub-Sahara. At par with South Africa. If you go down south, if you go to Uganda, this conversion, this percentage goes to maybe 75, 80%. If you go to Malawi, maybe it is even more, So it's a very big issue. And then the points you have touched of affordability and accessibility, they're very critical. So accessibility, we have, once again, I'll quote the former CS. She was saying that there are ground level people, those who are working on this project, right? So maybe we'll have to engage people like those for final distribution. See, the aim is to provide a pack of sanitary pad to the woman or to the school-going girl.
Okay.
Okay? And the schools are there across Kenya, in every county, in every village. So how do we do that? So it's a very big task, right? Then you also touch based on disposal, So when I would like to touch that issue, because that issue.
Can I come back to that?
Yeah,
I'll come
please.
back around to the issue of disposal. But Eric works on ground. Eric works in Kibra. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, the Basic Education Act of 2016, as amended in 2016, provides that the Ministry of Education shall provide pads in all public primary schools. Why then is your intervention needed?
I think you know the answer as a Kenyan. The intervention is needed because, one, the implementation has not been efficient or there's lack of. So I work in Kibra, but I was born and brought up in Kibra. So Kibra is home to me right now by a virtue of working there. So one of the things that I've come to realize working in Kibra, even based on the Education Act, is that many of the sex predators in Kibra who are men have discovered there's a gap with sanitary products. So what they do is that some of them are offering money for some of these girls before they have their menstrual cycle kicks in. And how they do that is that there's even a story we did with Nation actually, whereby there are girls who are being, I use the word rape, for as low as 50 shillings so that they can be given a sanitary pad, And so it's a sad affair. It's just like many of the young girls that we've seen in Kibra will stay away from school. Or some of them, when it's a few days or weeks to their menses, they'll start looking for money to buy a sanitary product. So it's something that we interact with every day. And one of my personal experiences is that we run a sports ministry. So, and in the many years of running a sports ministry in Kibra, there was one time we had a competition. And in that race, there was a girl. So she was winning. And when she almost got to the finish line, like I remember when it was being described here, she stopped. And then when she stopped, she just looked around, and I remember her taking a knee, and she just sat down. So at that time, even me, I was confused. I didn't know what was happening because I'm the camp director. So I am privileged that the women who work around me knew what was happening. So one of them approached her, and I think they had a leso, and that's what actually was some of the reasons why I joined this. And so what happened was that she was having her mens at that time, and she didn't have a pad. So she lost the race, and I'll never forget the look on her face. She felt ashamed. She didn't know how to react, how to act, where to go. It was like she wanted the ground to open up and sink in. But I am glad that the women around her, encouraged her, took her off. Of course, she never came back for some time, but she eventually did. And these are some of the things that I've seen happening, even with my own sisters, some people that I know in Kibra and other slums where we work. So for me, just to realize that something that costs less than $1 can stop a young girl from becoming a doctor, becoming an engineer, becoming an athlete, is something that we can solve. If you look today...
So what, do you rely on donations?
We rely on donations, yes, but I want to tell you a simple strategy that we did. Many years back, through this a lady here, Lina and Brenda, and who work with CBSK, we came up with an initiative whereby all the women in our lives, if you're having a birthday, your cake is a box of pads. And so I told them, the best gift you can give me during my birthday or when you have a birthday, just buy a box of pads. That's the simplest thing that you can do, because it's only, like for example, a box of pads now that you're working with Sai Pharmaceuticals, who will be supplying us. They're reasonable because they're also part of this course. So if you talk to them, there are these companies that now have a human face. You come and tell them, I'm from Kibra, I have X amount of girls, and we need pads. Okay. And they'll tell you, this is what we can do. So we rely on donations, yes, but also for it to be sustainable, it has to become a humanity issue. We shouldn't be talking about pads, I mean. It should be normal. As
Janet said, we have figured out a way to get to the moon, but somehow we have not figured out how to get pads to 65% of Kenyan women. But Jennifer, aside from the most recent events, and there was an event that by Mheshimiwa Kariuki, and that one was the events in Tigoni, Limuru, the other day. Women working in a cheese factory were asked to strip so that they could identify who disposed of a sanitary towel in the wrong bin. And we'll get into the disposal issue then. But prior to that, in 2019, there was a girl in Bomet. And the story goes, although the version is different depending on who tells it, who started her period, did not have access to a sanitary towel, stained herself, was asked to leave the classroom, went home, was sent to, or rather said she was going to fetch water, and took her life. And that was associated with the shame of having stained herself. Why is there such shame? Why is there such stigma around a normal bodily function?
Very unfortunate that a young woman should lose their life as a result of period shaming. Very unfortunate that girls would be asked to strip just to verify who is going through their period. When I saw that, I couldn't help but think there is more to this than meets the eye. And one of the things that I would want to say is that, yes, period shaming happens. Even as a young woman, I remember when I got my own periods, I was shamed and severally, and it pains and it hurts. Because we come from an environment where our forefathers and our foremothers in the ancient generation, period was something very mystical. It was something that is magical, and this awareness was very little. They did not have awareness. So I look at it simply. If my mother shamed me, and I know she loved me, and I wondered why she shamed me, my teachers shamed me, but I had capacity. I don't know why I messed up all the time, but I had capacity to live, not like that one who took her life. I want us to acknowledge and to recognize we are living in times where psychological support is very important. 1 in every 4 individuals in Kenya, according to the World Health Organization, will struggle with mental health challenges. So when it comes to period shaming, it's more than that. It is the lack of confidence, it's the lack of self-identity, it is the fear of who you really are. And so I would just begin to say, the person who asked everybody else to, undress so that she can see, I would say that is a borderline personality. Nobody would do something like that in their soberness, because you can't shame someone to that kind of extent. So what we see is the action, the behavior. What we don't see are the thoughts, are the feelings, are the emotions, and as a consequence of the circumstances, the behavior is what stands out. But I can tell you for free, when people shame others, they were shamed, and they too struggle with their self-esteem issues, with their body confidence, with matters psychological. And so the truth of the matter is, everyone today is one step away from mental health issues. And so when it's a period shaming, it's more than period shaming. It's not just about that situation. It's what they are thinking, what they are feeling, and what it is that they are going through. So they lash out on somebody else. Very unfortunate, because at the end of the day, I am very proud to sit here and see so many ambassadors. Kudos to each one of you, and kudos to Nation Media Group, because it takes one, as Wangari Maathai said, be a hummingbird. And when you put off the fire, just that one hummingbird will make the difference. We could sit here, talk about government, public sector, development partners, and everyone. What would happen if we took the responsibility of the Nyumba Kumi, that you will be able to make a difference where you are? I have the privilege of working with an organization who support girls and young women. And we did our trip in one of these slums in the city. And I thank God, because I'm privileged, I can have a shower every day. I was shocked that you pay 10 shillings to have a shower. 10 shillings for a shower. No soap, you come with your soap. And we really wondered, how the girls survive here. And so we went on and made a difference in the community by putting up a center where girls and young women can be able to come and shower for free and be able to have a difference. So that matters in terms of self-awareness, and what you can do as an individual where you are is what really counts at the end of the day. Will we continue with period shaming? Absolutely. It's gonna happen. Are we going to achieve perfection? Absolutely not. What we are going to achieve is progress, one day at a time. As long as we are achieving progress, we have done great things.
All right. And is this the Kenya Girl Guides?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Meg, I'd like to come to you, Megan, now, on the question of technology, because Kenya is praised far and wide for M-Pesa. We have a lot of technological capability, innovation. Where is Fred? Fred was talking about how creative people are when they need to be, because they say necessity is the mother of innovation. Where are we with that in terms of eco-friendly, making the pads eco-friendly and more accessible? There were some Kenyan students, St. Paul's University, they won an award for innovating a pad using a banana plant. Tell us a little bit about what Zana Africa is doing in that space.
So there is a lot of innovation around the world, but I think most of it is small-scale, local, one little room. And Kenyan consumers are discerning. They know a good quality product when they see it. They just can't afford it. And unfortunately, small scale is expensive and not as high quality. So when I started this journey back in 2004, 2005, 2006, I looked to try to see if we could make that happen. Maybe it works in India. I still haven't really actually seen it in practice. But for East Africa, it's too expensive. The logistics just don't work. So that's where we started with my co-founder, who's Kenyan, and a polymer material scientist, to innovate pads. Pads are not made from cotton, even though everybody likes to think that they are. They're made from pine trees from North America, from Scandinavia, and a bit from Chile. So just like your toilet tissue. Yeah, your toilet tissue isn't cotton. So same thing, same process, just different outcome. So that's about 1/3 of the cost of the raw materials of the product. So we started by innovating that, and we actually have patentable technology for 9 different pulp blends that can be used on large-scale commercial machines. And that's something that we're discussing with Sai Pharmaceuticals over the long time, is how can we do this locally at scale to reach all of East Africa, right? Because we know that the US, for example, didn't develop from Etsy, right? We didn't develop from small-scale things. We need large-scale commercial manufacturing. In order to do that, we need cost-effective energy, we need cost-effective labor, we need cost-effective everything, right, to be competitive. We need the products to be zero rated. Right now we are importing from China because it's cheaper than making it here. It's a very difficult environment, but I know the government is committed to that, and they're really working on that, and we really applaud that and are walking alongside them to see how do we sustainably solve this problem locally. So we're the only company in the world that has 9 different pulp blends. We are talking with an innovator in India, Akar Innovations, that has the top and bottom layer that are compostable, and they also have a super absorbent polymer, you know, the thing that makes baby diapers gel, or the thing like if you're not wearing great pads and it's all gelatinous and it feels like burning and like it chomas, yeah, that super absorbent polymer, it's not a natural substance. So they also have a natural substance for that. So we are looking, can we have Kenya be the first that really has national abilities to have compostable sanitary pads? And we're in process, yeah? But we had this innovation way back in 2013, 2014. But, you know, to try to raise funding as a small social enterprise has been very challenging. But we think that there's a moment now, and we think in the next 3-4 years we could actually make some significant strides to make things happen. And we would be building, you know, more revenue from farmers around the country, reducing the cost, building Kenya, and making more affordable products. So it's kind of a win-win everywhere. But also, let me also say that we really believe in dignity through choice. The reason that Zana, we started with single-use disposable pads is because we sent high school graduates all around the markets to ask, hey, women, what do you want? Yeah? And it turns out that women need a better product. They need the longer wings, everything you said, thicker pads. They don't need daytime and nighttime. They can't afford to buy 3 different products for 3 different types of their periods. You just need one to tosha you. So we started with that, but we will be introducing menstrual cups in the next 1 year. We will be introducing reusables as well, which we sell to NGOs, because it's really about dignity through choice. I don't think any NGO should just be giving products to girls because we tell them these are the best products for you. We really need to co-create, which what Zana does with everything, with the end consumer. What do you need? Tell me what you want. Let's figure out how to get that to you, because it's only then that girls can really take ownership of their periods and really feel proud about what they're doing.
All right. Do you guys remember the conversation, I don't know how many years back it was, about the chafing, the quality of the pads and the burning? Do you remember? You would walk and you would be in so much pain. Yeah, so when you talked about that polymer, now I get where it comes from. But Rajiv, the question of disposability. A lot of us, when we dispose of our pads, either we wrap it, throw it in our trash, don't really think about where it's going, or if you're lucky enough to work in a building like I do at the Nation Media Group, you know, there are those bins, you step on it, pops open, you toss it inside. But why is it that we need to pay attention to the question of disposal?
Yeah, disposability is very important. So number 1 is affordability, then accessibility, then disposal. Number 3 is disposal. Now, one thing we should remember, that we are talking of that 65%, you know, deprived, not the 35% those who are privileged. So if you see in the market, and even if you see our pack, or probably Megan's pack, the disposable instructions are written there. It's simple. Once you have used, you wrap it, throw it in a bin, okay? Ideally, from the bin, it should go to an incineration center where they are burnt. This is the process, right? In fact, nowadays, as per NEMA instructions, you even have to write that you have to bring back this packet back to my shop, all right? That's one. But we are discussing the 65%, not the 35%. Now, if you have, let's say you have made a product which is affordable, which is accessible to somebody, once again in Turkana or Marsabit or wherever. You can't expect, Marsabit or Turkana to have disposable bin. You cannot expect them to have incineration centers. So then what? So, I'll continue what Megan was saying, that you have to be environmental friendly. That's very important. Right now, the pad which is available is about 50% biodegradable, okay? Mm-hmm. Right, maybe? about 50%. Now, it is possible, as she said, that we can make the remaining 50% also biodegradable. As she said, top layer is compostable, the bottom layer is biodegradable. Then even if you want, there could be a special category of polymer, superabsorbent polymer, which could be biodegradable. Now, to do this, as she said, that the technology is expensive. People, those who can do this, they have got their patents, right? But it's not that we cannot, as SAI, we can do this, right? But we can do this, we can get into this kind of investment, provided the first support we'll need from the government is that there has to be a clear-cut policy on this. So that, as Megan said, that the cheap imports coming from China, after having spent all that and, made sure that what we are making is fully biodegradable, and then we still have, cheap products coming from outside, then we, once again, after having done all this, we become extremely non-competitive, We are not competitive at all. So if we really have to get into this, which is at times a very, and another important thing is that you also have to look at the scale we are talking about, addressing the remaining 65%.
Yes.
Okay? The woman population of Kenya is about 27 million. Out of the 27 million, about 18 million women are in their adolescent, using sanitary pads. And out of the 18 million, only 30% are privy right now, right? So we are talking of addressing 12, 13 million people, which means we are talking of 200 million pads, 200 million pads per month. So producing them, making them affordable, and then talking about their disposal it's a scale we are talking about. So there must be clear-cut support in terms of policies, that if there is somebody who's doing this, trying to save the environment of this country, trying to make it affordable, available to the far-flung areas, must be protected also, right? So this is how I will describe. But when it comes to disposing this thing in those far-flung areas, I think to make it biodegradable or compostable or eco-friendly, as you said, is the only solution.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Eric, for the policymakers who may be listening, given your experience with these girls and these women, and I know Meg is really big on data and giving them what they want, what would you say to the policymakers? To move this conversation beyond, Kenya has been progressive in the area of removing VAT. I think that was in 2004. We have legislation talking about children in primary schools should have sanitary, public-private schools should have access, should be provided for sanitary towels. But then, of course, Gloria Roba, the senator, has taken the conversation to all public schools, and not only public schools, but even schools where faith-based organizations sponsor students. What would you say to the policymakers? How do we move this along? How do we reduce the 65% and this 1 in 4 girls who don't know that you have sex, you get pregnant once you've started your periods, and the 1 million girls who are missing school?
Thank you very much for that question. I think for me, before I move to the government and the policymaker, is how did I get involved in the pads issue? I'll start from a home-based view. My greatest teacher has been my wife, because biologically I'll never experience periods. And so I respect women who do that. So she's the one who has made me to really love what I'm doing. Because when she was going through that, she would explain what's happening and all those kind of things. Because there are two things we have to agree on. As Africans, issues surrounding blood are both spiritual and cultural. So there needs to be re-engineering of our thoughts. And it shouldn't be seen as a battle between men and women, where women are trying to force us to support them on this issue. It should be just an issue of education. Teach us. Start by teaching the boys. Start by teaching your husbands. Let them know. Because one thing I've also discovered while I was working in Kibra is that these issues come up as campaigns, but on a normal day, nobody talks about them. We wait.
Comes up on the campaign trail.
They come during campaigns like the World Menstrual Day and things like that. Is when they're amplified. Right? And maybe when you go to a corporate and you find a bin there that has been left for the, and all that. I think the first thing is that teachers, let us come alongside you. Let's spend time also teaching. Civic education is very important. Because most of the men, at least the ones that have interacted with issues to do with menstrual cycle, is a taboo. So I think if you start by teaching us first, I think that would be very important. Then on the second aspect is Kenyans are very generous people and they're willing to engage government. But at times the how is the problem. Because you find that when I speak, the first thing that someone will ask me is, maybe where I'm from, is it a campaign issue, is it a political issue? What we did from our end to start the conversation before even the government came in, and I was surprised that the MCAs even showed up at our center, is we set up a pad center. And where any girl or woman can walk in and get a sanitary product for free without questions asked. And the next thing my friends started asking, how do we support it? And I say, just come and drop a box of sanitary products and walk away. So right now, as we speak, we have enough to cater for anybody who walks in there. And no questions asked, whether you are rich or poor. Because there's something that we forget. At times you can come to Kibra to do your assignments. It can be media, it can be corporate. And, you know, you have an accident. So where do you go if you don't ensure that you have a place there where you can get one? So I think just starting from the basics, whereby we say, this is a humanity issue. It doesn't matter if you are a boy or a girl. Just know that at one point, your sister, your mother, whoever will go through this cycle, and you need to be ready to support them psychologically and even with a product if you have one. Then from the part of government, I think what CS said is very, very important, where she said that she took a role in ensuring that she started a foundation and she's been there doing all this. I think also the same way they're collecting signatures right now for other things. I think at the forefront, men should be there, collecting, also saying that I stand with a sister, and you say that, for example, like I said, every time I have a birthday, boxes are flying in of pads. We can take a stand and say, as a man, I'm standing with 2 or 5 women. It's only $1. I say that just like the tithes, I make it very personal. That every month I will donate to an organization that takes care of women who need sanitary products.
All right.
And then from there, now the government can come. You know, the government, at times we bash them, but they just don't know what to do because they're wondering, it's millions of girls, what do we do? But if we start from a simple solution, then they will come alongside us.
That's why you're here, to tell them what needs to happen. But Jennifer was hosting on Tuesday a fellow psychologist, Lois Snow, and she was saying she had a story about a gentleman who was sent to the store to bring pads, and he brought back papas. But how do we have these conversations? Because periods are very personal, you know? So there's a privacy issue attached. How do we maintain that balance where there's a sense of openness that if you want to talk about it, you can, but also I don't want to invade your privacy?
I like that. Periods are very personal, are they not? It's not everybody's agenda. I'm reminded of a young girl that I interacted with who told me that the mother, when she told her mother that she got her periods, she did not only receive shaming from her mother, but her mother warned her, do not tell anyone about this. Do you hear me? Do not tell anyone. So she didn't understand what this is all about, other than the blood that is coming out from a place it shouldn't. But when she told me that, I understood. There are certain cultural factors that come into play, even when we consider it's not, don't tell anyone. Now, why not tell anyone? Because there is culture that sets prey for those kind of girls. One, they believe that if they have a relationship, a physical relationship with that young minor, who has now transitioned into womanhood, but has not had the privilege of having another male, that they are going to protect themselves from HIV and from others. It's cultural. You'd find out who believe that. Secondly, there are those ones who, when they have not been able to have children, they know, according to their norms, that they can have a child as a result of cleansing themselves with this minor. How unfortunate. How can a people believe that you can be able to heal yourself as a result of being able to do this? But it is a fact. Now, the truth of the matter is, a mother is worried, don't tell anyone. Because if you do, then you are calling attention on yourself. And so that is one of the things that I would say at this point, that it's a cultural disorder. And one of the things I would say, even as a people, we need to learn, unlearn, and relearn some of our cultural norms that don't work for us. Those girls are needing money for pads, but the guys around have certain challenges that they want to heal. And because of that, they are willing to pay for that. It's not just about, a transaction of a pad. There is more to it than that. It's about a belief system that needs to be dealt with. And so somebody said, awareness is the heartbeat of therapy. So what do we need to do as a people? We need to teach, we need to mentor, we need to coach everybody so that they understand that these beliefs are not serving a community in the right way.
Okay.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, it is sad, but these girls are at risk because of cultural norms.
All right. So you're saying we need to start having these conversations. We need to start unlearning some of these things, the same way we have approached like the issue of FGM and such.
Exactly. And these conversations need to begin at home. All right? My mother never told me anything about periods and what they were. We had Johnson & Johnson come to school one day, brought all the big pads that looked like loaves of bread in those days. If you come from my generation, you would know. The brothers would ask, what's that? All right? They were mad because we took loaves of bread to school and those were pads. Nobody knew what we were doing. You are not supposed to have those conversations. What do we need to do? Kudos to Nation Media Group for beginning a conversation such as this. And we have brothers in the house. What a joy. My father was a pioneer in these matters. He was learned. And guess what? I used to have conversations about my periods with my father. And when I needed the pads and everything, because they were bought, and he's the one that bought them. And so when I was married, I inducted my husband into all this. He bought the pads for his girls. So what are we saying? Awareness is the heartbeat of therapy. What you are aware of must not be something that you keep quiet about. You need to educate. And guess what now? I'm in the season of being a grandma. And now my daughter has been able to have conversations with her daughters concerning this matter. It's not a hush-hush. And that's how we grew up, and that's what we pass on. We don't talk about these things. Let's begin the conversation, and the time is now.
All right, because even for women in leadership, I was reading something, and it was said that, people were hesitant about putting women in leadership positions because of that time of the month, that they get irrational.
Yes.
Yes, it's true, we get moody, but then how those people who say, see them. These ones, you can't have them in leadership positions because they are irrational.
They are irrational. I must admit that they can be rational. Why? Because periods come with mood swings. They end with mood swings. It's amazing that periods is such a big issue. But guess what? When they come to an end, it's also a big issue. And so both ways, you have, you have mood swings that happen all the time. But we may learn about the hygiene, the disposal, the awareness, but what we may never know is how it plays on us in terms of the hormonal imbalances and the reactions that we may have. And so sometimes you will, if you've been around gentlemen, if you've been around a woman who's going through the cycle, you sometimes know that you feel like you're walking on eggshells. And our MC will talk about that in just a minute. He's got 3 daughters. He knows everything. And so that, the hormonal changes in the body bring about that different moods and temperaments during that season. And that is also something that you've got to be taught, you've got to understand, and you've got to manage just as it comes to the end of it. Then we talk about menopause. A lot of them throw things in the air, hot flashes and things like that. And most importantly, sex is behind them and they're like, what just happened here? So we don't have education. I remember myself going to see a nurse friend of mine and simply asking, I haven't had my period in 3 months. I was so worried about that. Another one is wondering, why do I have it all the time? My concern was, what do I do without it? I need it. That's what makes me feel like a woman. Says, what's your problem, Jenny? It simply means you can do this with no worries every day. Now, that's another problem of a woman. Doesn't matter where you are, every woman sitting here and beyond has a problem, whether it's menstrual periods or the exit of it, or domestic violence, or relationships that are not working. Question is, what do we need to do as a people? We need to be totally aware of ourselves, how our body operates, and how our environment is functioning. What do you need? You need a coach, you need a mentor, you need a to-go-to friend, and you need these conversations every day. Not just when it is the menstrual day, not whenever it is the campaign day. It is an everyday conversation that's going to change. This matters, period shaming, one person, one community, one day at a time, as we continue to make progress.
All right, so
Thank
just
you.
2 more questions, one for Megan and one for you, Rajiv. Megan, is this why you cannot have one without the other? You cannot give pads without sex education? Because then if I understand how my body works, how it affects my hormones, that it impacts how I behave and how I understand and how people understand what is happening. And also, sex education and pads, you can't separate the two. In your view, do you agree, disagree? And then what needs to happen? You have been working in this space since 2007. What are we missing? Why are we at 65% and we still have 1 million girls who do not go to school because of periods?
This world is very patriarchal. Not just Kenya, the world. We want to control women's bodies. We want to control the information that women get. Even Monday through Friday, why do we have Monday through Friday work days? It doesn't always work for women. Why do we have air conditioning set at the temperature for men? Why are seatbelts designed at the height of men? Yeah, women, since really the industrial age, women have been designed out of society. And men have been controlling the narrative, controlling the purse strings. There are still many, many households around this country and around the world where even if a woman earns, she gives it to her husband. And he gives it back to her, yeah? Am I speaking truth? So if we can't even control our own money, how do we control our own body? And why do we not have the right to control our own bodies or our own destinies? Yeah? Men promise girls the world, but it doesn't include their own ideas. It doesn't include their own sense of purpose. Yeah? The majority of men are having sex with young girls. These girls aren't having consensual sex. Yeah, in the study that we did in Kilifi, the average age of first sex was 11.7 years old. If that doesn't want to make us rend our dresses and scream and cry, I don't know what will. Yeah, these are babies that we need to care about. And we can talk about sex ed, it's important, but this is really a safeguarding issue. This is an issue to help girls be safe. Yeah, when my 6-year-old now was 3. She had a urinary tract infection. Yeah, it's the #1 reason we women have to go to the doctor. Yeah. She said, "Mama, I don't want the male doctor to look at my urethra." She knew her body names. She wasn't afraid. And so we said, okay, great, we'll go to Dr. Majisu instead, the female doctor. We need to not have this be a singular conversation. We need this to be an arc of a conversation over time that just normalizes our bodies. We use real names, biological names of our body parts. The average age that girls and boys are being touched inappropriately is like 2 and 3. I was in Mathare on Monday talking to teen moms, again, moms who got pregnant because they didn't know about pregnancy. And we were talking about child safeguarding because they all had little kids in their arms. And I said, you know, kids at age 5 start to be touched inappropriately. And they said, no. Age 2. It starts at age 2. So if a girl or a boy doesn't know, I shouldn't be touched here or here or here, and I can tell my mama, I can tell my baba, and it's okay, then they're going to be injured spiritually, physically, for the rest of their lives, right? And so this is just really about your body and yourself. And that's why I think the education is so powerful. It's just you and your body and what's going on, what's normal, what's not normal. 10% of women need almost surgical interventions for their pain, but women are told, no, be a woman, be strong. Yeah? No, don't be strong, go see a doctor. Being strong is taking time out of your schedule and going to see a doctor. Yeah? But we're pushed down, we're set aside. We're told that it's not important, it doesn't matter. And so that's why these things have to go together, because it's so freeing. When we go into all the classrooms, we've given pads to over 300,000 girls over the last maybe decade. And every time, and we do boys too, they write anonymous questions, yeah? And it all just starts with what's normal and what's not normal, right? If a girl is carrying a yeast infection or urinary tract infection for a long time, it then goes into a kidney infection, right? Now she might even die, right? For something totally preventable. So it starts with child safeguarding. It starts with this normalizing this, but it is the beginning in a major way of the subjugation of women and the lack of gender equality, right? And what is so powerful is that when kids go through our curriculum, the one that's being scaled with the Kenyan government, boys, before they go through our curriculum, when you ask them, are girls and boys, like, should they share household chores, right? They say, the boys beforehand say, no, girls were made by God to do household chores, right? I don't think any of us in this audience agree. If they go through our curriculum, they say, no, boys and girls are equal, we should help our sisters in the house, and they should have enough time in the classroom and to do their homework, right? When we ask them about the period staining and staining their dress, right? Beforehand, they say, I think we would just laugh, we would do nothing. Afterwards, they say, I would help my sister, I would put a lace around her, I would walk her home so she's safe to get changed and come back, yeah? And so we can break this cycle for this generation, and I agree with my colleague here that, you know, adults, we have a lot of stigma ourselves, yeah? Hurt people, right? So when we have this period shaming, it's because we don't know how to deal with that. Okay. And we're trying to do a whole program around that to help ourselves be aware of that. But it goes hand in hand with the safeguarding, and then, yeah, the sex ed, what is safe? Because girls are not in equal relationships. And so the men have to play a role. Tell your friends, don't be sleeping with girls. Let them be girls, yeah? And we have to tell the girls what's true so that they can make informed decisions. And those two have to go together. If we just throw pads at the country, it will help. Okay. If we throw pads at the country and we educate, it will transform completely.
All right. I need to hand over this point to my colleague Fred Mutiriri, but Rajiv, lastly, if there's one thing you want us to leave here thinking about, what is it?
Well, you know, education is very key, and I agree with whatever Megan has said. But I'll also say that we have gone through the whole era of women's liberation, you know, and I think, scenario has changed. Today, women's participation, while whatever you have said is correct, but also women's participation in every sphere has also increased. But it still remains work in progress, and we all have to play our role. Men's engagement is extremely important, and men has to come forward and really work seriously towards this cause. That's what I want to say.
All right. Makofi kwao. All right, so let me thank my panelists this afternoon for taking part and moving this conversation forward, the issues that need to be addressed. And I'll start with Eric Simba, Christian-based camps of Kenya. Makofi yake. We also have sitting next to him Megan White Mukuria, Zana Africa founder. We have sitting next to her Rajiv Joshi, CEO, Sai Pharmaceuticals. And sitting next to me, Jennifer Karina, psychologist, certified professional coach, and author, I forgot that one, The Marriage Built to Last series. Thank you very much. We will step down, but Mwitiriri, who's coming up? We can make way for them?
We are here. Thank you. Asanteni sana. Wapigeni makofi jamani wanapoondoka. Warembo kweli kweli, tunashukuru kwa mawaidha yenu. Natarajia kwamba wale ambao wanastahili kufanya jambo watafanya jambo. Mpo kidogo, mnakaa kama avocado ambazo hazijaiva kidogo. Sasa nataka muive kidogo. Nataka msimame tucheze mchezo ambao unaitwa Roses and Thorns. Yule mtu ambaye yuko karibu nawe, nyinyi mko hapo, msisimame sababu ya kamera Roses and Thorns. Yule mtu yuko karibu naye, tutasimama sisi wote, tusimame jamani, simameni. Najua mmechoka, simameni jamani. Haya, we can stand up. Thank you very much. You can stretch just a little bit as I call Kayamba. Kayamba, are you here? If you're not here, we play this. All right, Roses and Thorns. This is what you do. The person next to you, ask them 2 things that were beautiful today wherever they came from, and 2 things that irritated them wherever they came from. 2 things. You must know your neighbor. Know their name. Understand their name. Fungua roho. Ndo hiyo. Waulize, nani huyo alimkasirisha mpaka anataka kumpiga vita? Sijui kama kwamba ni vita vya kiroho ama ni vipi hivyo. Unajua jina? Jua jina? Jua jina. Yako iko wapi? Yapi?
Ndio yuko nayo.
Ndio hii. Waulizeni jamani. Muulize anafanya kazi wapi. Tukiwa katika hiyo hali, niwaulize wale ambao tunastahili kuwa nao hapa jukwani. 2, 3. Ruth Mweni, tafadhali. Ruth Mweni, tafadhali njoo. Haya, ikiwa mshamaliza mketi jamani. Ketini jamani. Mnapenda raha sasa. Mashallah. Mnataka tu gumzo. Haya. Asanteni sana. Tuketi mabibi na mabwana. Lovely. Lovely. Haya. Nataka kuita wale ambao tutakuwa nao. Kayamba, mshafika? Mnakuja kana kwamba nyinyi ni training. Njooni mtupe moja kisha tuingie kwenye mazungumzo. Njoo. Nasema niwape muda? Wanasema niwape muda.
Haya basi unaweza anza kuita wenye wanafaa kuwa hapa.
Wale ambao nitastahili kuwa nao, Ruth Mweni ambaye ni mtangazaji na pia anafanya kazi katika afisi ya rais, ana shirika liitwalo Hopes, Dreams and Dignity. Tafadhali Ruth Mweni, njoo hapa jukwani. Chukua kiti cha kwanza pale, mimi nitakaa kule mwisho. Margaret Jambi, huyu alikuwa mwakilishi mteule kwenye kaunti ya Kiambu. Asante sana, anaongoza shirika lake la Queen's Foundation. Asante sana mheshimiwa. Hatimaye tunaye James Atito Omolo, the period man. Njoo jukwani jamani, wapigeni makofi. Kayamba mpo? Njooni tu. Njooni. Nyimbo zangu kidogo zinaenda fiongo.
Day job.
Nikae tu na kazi yangu. Ndo hawa tuimbe moja, tusimame tuimbe moja. Asanteni sana kwa kuketi na kusimama. Hiyo ndio kazi ya MC. Sasa simamieni tena mara ya mwisho. Njooni wazee wa Kayamba ndo hao. Haya, let's stand up, have a jog and then we can continue. Karibuni sana.
Kayamba African Beats
in the house. Asante sana, our very able MCs, Fred. Simameni, hatuwezi amuzi kana sisi tumesimama. Aya, sasa by the way, we've been seated for a while, Simama kidogo. Just simama kidogo. Wherever you everybody kindly, let's be upstanding kidogo to let's have a jig. Alafu ndo tuliko sessions, ndio? Please make sure team naweza rudisha. Sasa ni Swahili session.
Kiswahili.
Kiswahili. Swahili sanifu. Chukua kiti chako, lisongeze. Songeze upate nafasi ya kufanya jigijigi. Sawa. Wekelea. Naomba unipe hewa. Very simple. Are we ready?
Yes.
Nipe hewa DJ. Haya, kudasi naitaje kwa Kiswahili? Katika. Twende. Haya, ruka juu. Are we ready? Hii ni kuruka juu We go. Mama utinya. Haya, kushoto kulia. Kushoto. Kulia. Kushoto. Kulia. Kushoto. Haya, from side. Side naitwaje? Upande na upande. Upande na upande. Hii Kiswahili, Fred, hii Kiswahili yako hii. Haya, Fred, naomba uje. Naomba undo. Wende mwenye Swahili. Haya, ongoza twende. Haya, tuamfuata Fred. Haya, tuamfuata. Leso. Haya, twende. Haya, zunguka. Haya, fuata. Follow Wilda. Meso adoribel. Haya, twende. Follow Wilda. Haya, this is a must join. Twende. Fred leads we for ni Swahili session. Haya, Fred yuongoza, tuamfuata nyuma. Haya, twende kila mtu. Haya.
Mwana wa mama utinya. Mwana wa mama uruma. Murongo.
Haya, twende.
Murongo.
MC kwa Kiswahili nasemaje? Msema chochote. Haya.
Senyari.
Haya, Fred anatuongoza. Msema chochote MC. Ongoza. Twende. Haya, join the train. Pole. Sio English, ni Swahili. Tuwaomba ujoini Swahili. Haya, tuwaomba mujoini. Haya, tuko Swahilini. Uswahilini. Haya, twende. Hausikii Swahili? Hey
Soleri mwesi.
Wale ambao wajaungana. Fred, nasemaje kuungana ama kujoin?
Waingie.
Haya, naomba mwingie. Naomba mwingie. Sote.
Ururumbe rwechire.
Haya, twende. Haya, kila mtu sasa. Popote ulipo naomba utazame mbele. Haya, kila mtu angalia mbele. Niangalie. Angalia mbele, tazama mbele. Simama. Haya, niangalie. Haya, twende mnai. Ochali iko vizuri. Haya, twende. Haya, hii ni rahisi twende mnai.
Sibara city new. Sibara city new. Emunyange kolire. Maina kolire. Iringe ukolire.
Haya, naomba sasa kila mtu shika bega jirani.
Emuchuma kolire.
Haya, kila mtu yote right.
Abana babukusu. Shikilia mheshimiwa Kuderi.
Tuko tayari. Are we ready? Haya, twende mbele kila mtu twende. Weka mguu wa kulia juu. Weka mguu wa kulia. Haya, tunasonga mbele. Twende kila mtu. Twende songa ndani. Twende. Mheshimiwa juu kwenda mbele. Twende.
Wapi vigelegele?
Kuja ndani.
Asante sana.
Mheshimiwa Achire.
Asante sana. Asante sana.
Anabakayamba. Hii salamu yake. Twende. Chini. Wapi kelele ya mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Asanteni. Sasa kajasho kembamba hapa. We. Haya. Asanteni sana mabibi na mabwana. Watazamaji wetu wa NTV, mkiwa kule nyumbani, tunawakaribisha tena kwenye mazungumzo haya ambayo tunayasema ni kudadavua maswala ya hedhi. Swala ambalo limekuwa ni changamoto kwa Wakenya wengi. Kwa hivyo nawashukuru sana wewe ambaye uko kule nyumbani ambaye unatutazama. Asante sana kwa muda wako, kutupa muda wako na kutupa sikio lako ili tuweze kukufahamisha na kuzungumza masuala mengi ambayo wewe mtazamaji yanakuguza, wewe mwenyewe ukiwa ni mtoto wako yanakuguza mtazamaji, vile vile ukiwa ni mzazi tunakushukuru sababu umeketi kitako nyumbani kusikiza masuala ambayo yanaguza mtoto msichana na vile vile wanawake humu nchini. Mimi naitwa Frederick Mwitiriri, uko ndani ya NTV. Mida hii ya saa ngapi? Saa 11 kasoro dakika 13. Karibuni sana kwenye jukwaa adhuhuri ya leo. Jioni ya leo ninaye Ruth Mweni ambaye ni mtangazaji na vile vile mtaalamu wa masuala ya mawasiliano. Anafanya kazi katika afisi ya rais na vile vile ana shirika liitwalo Hopes, Dreams and Dignity. Ninaye Margaret Jambi ambaye vile vile ni aliyekuwa mwakilishi mteule katika kaunti ya Kiambu. Anaongoza shirika lake la Queens Foundation ambalo linawasaidia wasichana na swala hili nzima la hedhi. Mtazamaji, ninaye James Atito Omolo ambaye kwa kimombo anaitwa the period man, na vile vile ni manager masuala ya fedha ushirika Stretchers Youth Organization kule kwenye kaunti ya Mombasa, mkurugenzi pia kwenye shirika la Advanced Developers Enterprises Services. Ni mwanaharakati masuala ya hedhi. Na sasa nitaanza na huyo jamaa ambaye swala hili ambalo ni nzito sana ambalo tumekuwa tukilizungumzia ndani hapa kwenye hoteli hii ya Safari Park. Nianze nawe ya Tito. Unaitwa period man. Kukaendaje ukaanza kuitwa period man jamani?
Lastajabisha sana, sio?
Kweli.
Naam, hamjambo nyote. Asante sana na shukuru kuwa hapa siku ya leo. Period man ilianza 2019 ama ukipenda mwaka 2019. Kaunti ya Turkana, mahali panaitwa Kakuma. Nilikuwa nimetembea Kakuma siku moja. Nilikuwa nimeenda kuhamasisha jamii na haswa vijana masuala ya afya ya kizazi. Jioni moja nilipokuwa nikitembea, mwendo wa kama saa 1 hivi jioni, kulikuwa na rasharasha za mvua. Kwa hivyo tulikuwa tunaharakisha ili tufike hotelini. Nikapata kikundi cha wasichana 7 wameketi kando ya barabara. Nikauliza yule tuliokuwa tukitembea naye, ni kwa nini hawa wasichana wameketi hapa masaa haya? Akanieleza kwamba hawa wasichana wako kwenye hedhi na kulingana na mila na tamaduni za pale hawaruhusiwi kukaa nyumbani mwao. Kwa hivyo wanakaa pale iwe ni siku 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ambapo wanapitia swala lile la hedhi, wakae pale mpaka wamalize. Nilihisi ni jambo la kusikitisha sana, lakini sikufanya mengi kwa kuwa nilikuwa mgeni siku hiyo. Kesho yake sasa nikawa hamasisho limeanza, nikawa naelezea kile kikundi jinsi ya kutumia kikombe cha kudhibiti hedhi almaarufu menstrual cup. Msichana mmoja akainuka kwa hamaki sana, akasema, mbona unaongea mambo ya periods na wewe ni mwanaume? Kwani wewe ni period man? Watu walicheka jinsi wanavyocheka hapa sasa. Nami nikaeleza tu ni kwa nini ilikuwa ni muhimu mimi kama mwanaume kuzungumzia masuala ya hedhi. Lakini niliporudi Mombasa, nikawa nafikiria sana wale wasichana 7 niliopata barabarani. Na nikafikiria ni nini naweza fanya ili kubadilisha ile tamaduni ama kile kiovu kinachoendelea katika ile maeneo. Ndio nikafikiria nimekuwa nikisikia kuna champions wengi masuala ya HIV, TB, family planning, lakini sijasikia mwanaume akizungumzia masuala ya hedhi. Ndio nikaamua kwa nini nisitumie jina ambalo litakuwa la mvuto la kuuliza swali, ni kwa nini mwanaume anafaa kuzungumzia. Nikakumbuka lile jina lililotajwa na ule msichana, the period man. Hapo nikaenda kwa mtandao wangu wa Facebook, nikasema kwamba kuanzia leo mimi nitakuwa the period man, na nitatumia jina hili kuhamasisha jamii masuala ya hedhi, ili kueleza jamii ni changamoto zipi ambazo wasichana wanapitia wakati wa hedhi. Ndipo sasa nikaanza kuwa the period man.
Asante sana. Sijui umekutana na wazee ambao wanakuuliza maswali, mbona unazungumzia masuala ya wanawake na wewe si mwanamke? Wanaume ambao wanakuuliza masuala kama haya?
Ndio, nimeulizwa hilo swali sana. Na sina wanaume peke yake, hadi wasichana na wanawake. Hadi kufikia kiwango cha kutukanwa katika mitandao yangu ya social media. Kwa sababu watu wanahisi kwamba swala hili ni la wanawake na halifai kuzungumziwa na wanaume. Lakini jibu ambalo nimekuwa nikipeana, nimekuwa nikiwauliza swali. Kuna wauguzi wengi wa kiume, ama tukisema nurses. Nurse wa kiume hahitaji kupata mimba ili aweze kusaidia wanawake wajawazito. Ninachokihitaji ni elimu. Na hiyo elimu inapatikana kwa vitabu, mitandaoni. Kwa hivyo ni bora niweze kupata ile elimu, nitafute kikundi cha watu ambao hawaelewi, hawalijui, niweze kuwaambia. Kwa hivyo hilo ndio jibu ambalo nimekuwa nikiwapatia wale ambao wanahisi kwamba mwanaume hafai kuzungumzia masuala ya hedhi.
Jambi, tuingie kwako, na najua kwamba una shirika, na nafahamu kwamba ulianzisha shirika sababu ya masuala ambayo uliyapata pale kwenye kaunti yako ya Kiambu. Tuelezee safari hiyo.
Wakati nilipo nasema nichaguliwa, nafikiri mnisamehe sababu nimetoka Kiambu.
Shakusamehe.
Wakati nilikuwa nominated na chama, nikaenda pale County Assembly ya Kiambu. Kuna shida mingi ambayo nilikuja kujua ambayo mtoto wa msichana anapitia, na mambo ambayo yanafanya mtoto wa msichana asije akafikisha ama asije aka attend shule poleni. Na kwa hivyo wakati mmoja nilipoenda mahali ambapo ndio Kikuyu, nikapatana na msichana mmoja alikuwa mjamzito, na mimi nina tabia nikiona msichana mdogo napenda kujua kwa nini anakaa ni kama ako maybe pengine primary school. Nikasema wacha ningetaka kujua nini kilichosababisha huyu msichana kafika hapa. Na kwa hivyo nilipoongea na huyu msichana, kwa msichana mdogo wa shule, akanieleza, akaniambia amekuwa kwa sababu ametoka mahali ambapo hapajiwezi, hawezi afford hizo sanitary towels. Na kwa hivyo akaniambia alipolilia kijana wa pikipiki mwenye alikuwa anampeleka shule, akamwambia sasa kama unataka nikusaidie, ningetaka tufanye kama exchange, nilale na wewe ili na wewe upate sanitary. Na kwa hivyo ikakuwa mazoea kila mwezi, na ule msichana akapata ujauzito. Na kwa hivyo nikajiuliza, kama huyu msichana ni mdogo hivyo ako ujauzito, what about wenye hatujui? Sababu mimi nimepatana na yeye, nikaamua nitake kujua sababu ambayo ilifanya afike mahali hapo. Na kwa hivyo nikaanza Queen's Foundation, na nikasema I would want to bring back the pride of a woman. Na nikaamua nitazunguka kaunti ya Kiambu, na kwa sababu nilipatiwa chance ya kuwa pale county assembly, nikaamua wacha nitembee, hata kama serikali National Assembly inapeana free sanitary towels, inapeana kwa mashule. Wakati nilipoenda shule moja kupeana zile sanitary, mwalimu alinieleza, akaniambia kweli sisi upewa, lakini ile ambayo sisi upewa, wao hupewa ya emergency. Kwa hivyo si ya kwamba ati msichana atapewa kila mwezi, anapatiwa kila mwezi. Kwa hivyo ministry ambayo ina provide wao hupeana for emergency. Na kwa hivyo mwalimu akanieleza, akaniambia wanahitaji sanitary. Na kwa hivyo nikaanza kutembea. Nilianza last year December mwaka uliopita, na nimetembea county ya Kiambu, na sasa mimi ndiye balozi wa period poverty katika Kiambu yetu. Na kwa hivyo nashukuru sababu mimi siangalii ati tutakuwa tunapeana hizi sanitary kila wakati. Nilienda pale Kiambu, nikaongea na governor wangu, na akanieleza atakuwa atatafuta hakikisha kwamba amenisaidia kuweka mtoto wa msichana shuleni na kuwapea free sanitary towels.
Makofi kwa jamani, that's a good thing. Ruth Safari, wewe ni mwanahabari, ulikuwa kituo kitangaza. Kwa nini ukavutiwa sana na hili swala la hedhi?
Nakumbuka mwaka wa 2015 ambapo nilikuwa mtangazaji kwenye redio kule Nakuru. Tulikuwa tunafanya kipindi cha campaign cha kusaidia wasichana ambao hawajiwezi. Tunaenda manyumba kwa manyumba, tunaangalia shida gani walizo unazo. Lakini tukapata pale kuwa relationship, yani uhusiano wa baba na msichana ni mzito sana. Na mimi vile nimelelewa na babangu aliaga mwaka 2022. Babangu alikuwa rafiki yangu sana. Aliaga kwa sababu ya cancer. Lakini vile mwenzangu alikuwa amekaa hapa, mwana saikolojia Jenny, alikuwa anasema yeye pia babake alikuwa anamnunulia sanitary towels. So nikaangalia sodu, alikuwa anamnunulia sodu. So kuangalia hiyo relationship pale Nakuru, maana mimi nimetoka huko Nakuru. Na kwingine kwingi. Nakuru tulijipata tukitafuta unga. Si ndio? So kuangalia nikasema lazima ni create change kila mahali ninaenda kama Ruth. Ni create change kila mahali tunaenda. So kwenye kile kipindi kwa nafanya kwenye redio, nikatafuta wenzangu, na hiyo ndio spirit nimekuwa nayo, napenda kusaidia. Nikatafuta wenzangu, tukashikana, tukaenda kwa manyumba fulani, vitongoji fulani, tukaleta wale wasichana pamoja. Kuwaleta pamoja tukapata kujua kwamba wao kupata sodu ni ngumu sana. Tukawauliza kwa nini? Wakasema wengine wao baba zao ni wakali sana. Na hizi ni mambo ambayo yako, na nafurahia siku ya leo kwa sababu kuna watu wengi walio ndani ya hapa ndani ambao wana represent different agendas. Tukimwangalia pale mheshimiwa Kariuki alikuwa anazungumza about the same thing. Pia aliyestaafu aliyekuwa rais Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta alikuwa anazungumza pia about the same thing. Ukiangalia saizi pia rais wa saa hizi His Excellency William Samoei Ruto bado mkewe anazungumza about the same thing. So tulipoanza kipindi hichi tulikuwa tunaangalia wale ambao hawezi wafikia watu kama walio huku juu. So ikakuwa safari nikaanzisha kipindi cha urembo Mr. and Miss Love Kenya, na kupitia hawa warembo vijana na wasichana, kwa sababu beauty can be inaonekana from different angles. So vile Kiswahili vile
unakimanya tu
vile so hawa models ambazo tulikuwa tunafanya kazi na wao, tulibidi tuwapatie hiyo kazi. Wanaenda kule kwa vijiji, wana supply hizo sodu, wanawapatia pale na huku na kuwasaidia. Na vile kipindi hicho nilikuwa nachokifanya pale kazini, tunawanunulia sodu, every mwezi ukiisha tunawanunulia sodu, tunawapatia. Yeah.
Period man, haya masuala ya sodo ni masuala ambayo kidogo kwetu sisi wanaume kuyazungumzia, hata kwa wasichana ni kwa aibu. Ni kwa nini ni vyema na ni muhimu wakati kama huu kuzungumzia masuala haya ya hedhi hadharani?
Naam, asante kwa swali hilo. Cha kwanza ni kwamba masuala ya hedhi ni masuala ya haki za kibinadamu. Na tukizungumzia haki za kibinadamu ni swala ambalo linahusisha afya ya kizazi kwa kina dada. Tumeona changamoto za maradhi mbalimbali zikitokea na dhibiti hedhi kikamilifu, ambazo kwa kizungu ita infections. Kuna maradhi mengi ikiwemo endometriosis, fibroids, ovarian cyst. Unaweza taja nyingi ambazo zinatatiza sana kina dada. Utapata mara nyingi msichana hataenda shuleni, labda yuko na uwezo wa kupata pad, lakini ule uchungu anaohisi haumruhusu kuinuka kwenda shuleni ama kwenda kazini. Hilo ni jambo la kwanza kwa nini tunafaa tuzungumzie masuala ya hedhi, ni afya. Jambo la pili, wanaume ni viongozi katika familia na nyanja mbalimbali za uongozi. Angalia county governments, magavana, wengi ni wanaume. Katika taifa letu, rais ni mwanaume, naibu mwanaume. Kwa hivyo kama wanaume hawatazungumzia masuala ya hedhi, inakuwa ni vigumu kutenga rasilimali nyumbani, kazini na hata serikalini. Kwa hivyo itakuwa ni vigumu sana kutekeleza miradi ambazo zinasaidia wasichana zinazohusiana na masuala ya hedhi. Tumeona miaka za hapo nyuma wakati tumezungumzia sheria ambayo ilirekebishwa, Basic Education Amendment Act, ilisema kwamba sodo zipeanwe katika shule za umma zote Kenya nzima. Lakini juzi tumeona bajeti ile ambayo ilikuwa ikitolewa, ambayo ilikuwa ni takriban milioni 480 ilikuwa ikitolewa, lakini saizi imekatwa. Inatolewa around 280 or so. Hiyo linatuonyesha kwamba huenda uongozi haujatilia manani masuala ya hedhi. Kwa sababu saizi tuko katika ile hali ambayo tunafaa kwa tunaongeza ile bajeti, lakini inapunguzwa. Ni jambo ambalo tunafaa kama wanajamii tulitilie mkazo na tulisukume sana, ili serikali iweze kuona uzito ulioko katika masuala ya hedhi. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu sana wale wanaume ambao wako uongozini pia waweze kuhamasishwa masuala ya hedhi. La tatu, bila kuzingatia na kutatua changamoto zinazotokana na hedhi, ni vigumu sana tufikie yale malengo 17 ya Sustainable Development Goals. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu masuala ya hedhi ina affect SDG goals tofauti. Tukiongelea kuhusu gender equality, inakuwa affected na masuala ya periods. Tukizungumzia masuala ya education, water, masuala ya environment, sustainability, inaafektiwa sana na masuala ya hedhi. Kwa hivyo, ili mradi tuweze kufikia yale malengo, kufikia mwaka 2030, ni lazima tuzingatie sana masuala ya hedhi na tufanye kile tunachoweza. Mwenzangu pale alisema it is a humanity issue. Sisi kama binadamu kuna kitu tunaweza fanya kuhusiana na masuala ya hedhi. Kwa hivyo tujukumike. Ni jambo tu ambalo tunafaa kulitilia mkazo kibinafsi na tulizingatie.
Jambi, swala la unyanyapaa stigma ni swala ambalo liko kwenye nchi sana. Tufanye nini tuweze kuondoa unyanyapaa hasa kwa mtoto wa kiume? Huyo ndio sababu mimi nikiangalia baba mzazi, watoto wasichana wananikaribia sana kuliko hata mama yao. Tufanye nini kumuelimisha mtoto wa kiume kwamba hili swala ni muhimu kwa dada zao?
Kwa maoni yangu, nafikiri jambo la kwanza ambalo tunafaa kufanya ni kuelimisha na pia kujulisha mwana wa kiume ya kwamba kupata sodu, kwa kupatia mtoto wa msichana sodu sio gift. Sababu nimeelewa ya kwamba nilipokuwa nazunguka Kiambu, nilikuja kujua wakati unaenda mashule kupatia msichana sodu, kila walimu wanakuuliza kwani vijana mmewachilia. Na kwa hivyo nafikiri tunafaa kuelimisha mtoto wa kiume aelewe ya kwamba kupata sodu ama kupatia mtoto wa msichana sodu sio kumpatia zawadi, ni kitu ambacho anahitaji na ni maumbile ya Mungu. Sababu wanapoangalia wanasema tunafaa kupatia msichana sodu na kijana tumpatie inawea. Na kwa hivyo mimi kama patron ningesema hivi, ama mwanzilishi wa Queens, ya kwamba tuelimishe vijana wetu na wajue ya kwamba hili sodu, kupatia mtoto wa msichana sodu sio kumpatia zawadi. Na pia wakati ulipoona pale Limuru, nafikiri watu walipoangalia, walitazama NTV, waliona mimi nilikuwa mmoja wa wale ambao walikuwa wanajaribu kupigania wale wa mama.
Wale walikuwa naimba.
Ni mimi. Mmoja ilikuwa mimi. Lakini sio emotions. Lakini kuna hiyo kuna jambo nilikuwa nataka kueleza ya kwamba mimi kama msimamizi wa mama balozi wa hiyo stigma, I mean period katika Kiambu, ni ya kwamba nafikiri ile ambacho kitu ama ile jambo ambalo watu wanakosa kuelewa kabisa, hawana elimu na kuelewa ya kwamba maneno ambayo yanahusu mwanamke ni mambo ambayo yanafaa kila mtu aelewe ya kwamba that inafaa kuwa watu waelimishwe, na itaanza na wamama. Nafikiri stigma inafaa kuanza, end stigma inafaa kuanza na wamama. Sababu wenye walitazama huko Limuru, mwenye alikuwa anaambia wamama watoe nguo alikuwa mama. Kwa hivyo itaanza na sisi kama wanawake, ili pia wanaume pia waweze kuelewa ya kwamba that stigma, hawafai kustigmatize mtu ama mwanamke wakati ambapo ako na wakati wake wa hedhi.
Nikuje kwako Ruth, swala hilo la kumuelimisha kijana kuhusu swala nzima la hedhi. Wewe kwenye shirika lako kuna mahali ambako unamguzia mtoto wa kiume na kumfikia mtoto wa kiume kumueleza kwamba haya ni masuala ya kawaida?
Ndio, nakumbuka mwaka 2022 last year tulikuwa kule Siaya na champions wa Hopes Dreams and Dignity. Tulikuwa huko na vile tulikuwa tunawapelekea wasichana sanitary towels, pia tuliwapelekea vijana boxers na viatu. Manake katika shirika letu tunafikiria kwamba mtoto kijana ameachiliwa pia sana, na vile anafaa pia kupatiwa mawaidha ili pia akapate kujua haya maneno tunazungumzia hapa sisi wote. So tulienda kule tukaweka wasichana 2500, vijana 2500 mahali pamoja, tukakaa chini tukaongea nao kutoka different wards na tukawapatia. Ilikuwa well covered na bado vile wanatuitaji, na our next project inakuja the next I think 1 month in my birthday September, na nafurahia sana vile anaitwa Simba alisema kwamba kila mwezi in your birthday, in honor of your birthday, lazima ufanye something to do with the community. Kama naweza sema mtoto kijana, tusizoee kusema mtoto kijana amedharauliwa. Tusizoee kusema hivyo, manake unachokisema ndio unampatia ule mtoto kijana pembe. Seti amedharauliwa, lakini tunamsaidia akue, yani wakue sawa pamoja na mtoto msichana. Manake tukiendelea kuwasaidia hawa watoto wasichana wawe very effective in whatever they are doing, so huyu kijana nani atamsaidia? So ndo maana tukasema hii maneno ya civic education tuwafundishe, tukae chini na wao tuambie ukipatia msichana mimba humwachili, unamchunga, vitu kama hizo. Lakini kwa sababu ni watutaki pia, the society, it's very true right now. Msichana mdogo anapata mimba, hajui kulea huo mtoto, umemwacha hapo peke yake, manake amepatiwa, sitaki kusema watu wa bodaboda because wamesema wamepigwa sana. Hatutaki kuwaleta kwenye hii conversation. Walisema kwamba kule nyumbani siku hizi wamerekebika na wako na shirika zao. So msichana anaenda kuomba pesa labda shilingi 100, 50 bob, the next thing unasikia she's pregnant. So the same thing that we are doing to us as the girl child is the same thing that we should do to the boy child. So vile iki kipindi kinaendelea hapa, ningependa kuomba kwamba wale machampion wako ndani ya nyumba hii wachukue kipindi hichi wapeleke kule kwa mashule za vijana, wafundishe pia. Ili msichana, kijana ako na dada nyumbani, anajua kwamba dadangu anahitaji sodu. So zile maybe amepatiwa pocket money na uko nyumbani baba amemfinya labda mtoto wake wa kike, anachukua kidogo ananunulia dadake sodo. So ni vizuri tukue na hizo vipindi na tuweze kuendelea hivyo. Na katika shirika letu pia, kabla sahau maneno ya vijana, tunawatafutia scholarships. So far right now tuna scholarships kama vijana I think 200. Yes, na which tunaweza dhibitisha.
Tukiwa hapo nikuulize, ni sera zipi ambazo unahisi wewe mwenyewe unapokwenda kule mashinani kukutana na hawa wasichana wadogo, vijana wadogo, ni sera zipi unahisi kwamba hazijawekelewa maanani zaidi, hazijatiliwa maanani zaidi ili serikali ikaweze kuwajibika?
Unajua sasa unanifunga, lakini sawa.
Sera ni policy.
Ni sawa.
Sababu kwa hiyo serikali hiyo.
Ya, nikusikia. Sawa. So mimi nafikiria kwamba tukiwa katika tukiwa hapa in terms of these policies, kama unaweza nikubalia nizungumze kizungu maybe dakika moja
ya wastani, sawa.
So nafikiria kwamba we need to really work on our communication, because communication is very important. Sustainable development, at the same time tukikuwa pia tunaongea na vijana to make sure kwamba when we are trying to tunapojaribu kuzingatia kitu to make sure kwamba tumeifuatilia na wadosi wetu wamefuatilia, wale watu wanakaa pale wamefuatilia, na tumeweza kusaidika.
Makofi. Amengangana na Kiswahili. Kiswahili kitukuzwe. Hapa NTV tunasema lazima tuendelee kuzungumza Kiswahili. Muhimu sana, siku ya Kiswahili ilikuwa juzi tu. Tunawafundisha Kiswahili, tunasonga mbele. Period man. Ulikuwa umenieleza tulipozungumza hapo awali kwamba ungependa kutuonyesha baadhi ya sodo ambazo zinatumika, ama ni gani ambazo ulikuwa unasema?
Kwa sasa labda sitaweza kuzionyesha.
Uliona haya?
Nimeziacha nje kidogo, lakini naweza nikatumana zikaletwa.
Ziletwe?
Asante.
Lakini tukiwa kwa hilo sababu tulikuwa nataka kuonyesha hiyo picha. Vijana wengi wakiwa na watoto, sababu mimi kwetu ni mashambani. Tulipokuwa tunakuwa tukiona msichana amepata wakati wake wa hedhi umefika, sisi vijana tulikuwa tunafurahi sana kumchekelea, sababu tulifikiria, sababu mashambani kuna mambo wewe. Tulifikiria huyu msichana pengine anamtaka kijana. Mashambani kuna mambo. Sijui kule Mombasa, na sababu swala la elimu ya mtoto kijana na msichana limekuwa likitiliwa mkazo sana na serikali. Kuna masuala ya kuwafundisha watoto wale, hasa wale wa shule za chekechea za msingi, kuhakikisha kwamba masuala haya wanaelewa.
Ukiangalia
kule ambako uliko.
Naam. Kuna mashirika mbalimbali ambayo wanafanya kazi na lazima tuyatambue. Washikadau wako wengi sana, wanatekeleza wajibu wao kuhakikisha kwamba wanafikia watu mashinani. Na jambo ambalo ningependa kusisitiza ni kwamba changamoto ziko, na mara nyingi tukizungumzia masuala ya hedhi watu huzingatia sana mambo ya kupeana visodo. lakini kuna mengi ambayo tumesikiza kutoka kwa leo waliozungumza mbele, kwamba kuna mengi ambayo tunafaa kuyazingatia zaidi, ikiwemo masuala ya maji, masuala ya jinsi ya kudhibiti maumivu na mambo mengine mengi. Kitu kingine ambacho washikadau kule Mombasa tunafanya ni kuleta wale dada zetu ambao wako na ulemavu mbalimbali. Ikiwa msichana ambaye hana ulemavu wowote anateseka kupata vifaa hivi, je, ni vipi msichana ambaye ako na ulemavu anateseka? Ushaijiuliza msichana ambaye hawezi kuona anasaidika vipi wakati anataka kubadilisha vile visodo? Msichana ambao hawezi kutembea. Niko na rafiki yangu fulani, sitamtaja, lakini anapitia tatizo la spina bifida. Sijui wangapi washai sikia ama ona mtu ambaye ana ulemavu wa aina hiyo. Ni kwamba mtu huyu anahitaji aina ya sodo ambayo inaweza kudhibiti damu, mkojo na kinyesi kwa wakati mmoja. Je, wale wabunifu ambao wanatengeneza hivi vifaa vya sodo wanamzingatia msichana yule? Si rahisi. Ni vigumu kupata vifaa hivi, sio? Kwa hivyo ni muhimu tuweze kuleta washikadau pamoja. Najua kuna wengi ambao wanafanya la msingi. Mheshimiwa alimtaja ndugu Neville. Na najua katika serikali kuu kumekuwa na hiyo komiti ambayo imekuwa kifuatilizia sana masuala ya hedhi Kenya, lakini tunaona kuna partners ambao wanafanya kazi kivyao. Ni muhimu tuweze kuwaleta hawa partners pamoja ili tuweze kuungana. Nikigusia kwa kifupi, kama shirika la Stretchers Organization, kuna mbinu ambazo tumezindua za kuhakikisha kwamba tunafikia jamii. Kuna kifaa ambacho tumeleta tunaita Menstrual Health Museum. Hii ni museum ambayo iko portable. Tunatembea nayo. Jinsi tunavyoona tuko na museum ambazo ziko mahali, tunaenda pale tunaona makavazi, vitu mbalimbali tangu jadi. Sasa hizi pia tuko na Menstrual Health Museum ambayo tuko na kila aina ya vifaa ambavyo vinahusiana na masuala ya hedhi. Kwa hivyo ukiingia pale utaona kila aina ya vifaa vya hedhi, kila aina ya mashini ambazo zinatumika hata kuchoma zile hedhi ambazo zimetumika, tunaziita kwa kizungu incinerator. Tuko na samples. Kuna zile tunaita pad dispensers ambazo zina promote access ili wasichana waweze kupata vifaa. Kwa mfano sehemu kama hapa saizi, sijui kama hoteli iko na sanitary pad dispenser ambayo iko tu available chooni kule ama msalani ambapo msichana anaweza kaenda kapata pad ya emergency. Hivi ni vitu ambavyo tunatumia kule mashinani kuhakikisha kwamba tunapitisha ujumbe kwa wasichana wetu. Vile vile tuko na campaign tunaita Men for Periods Movement. Hii ni kampeni ambayo inavuta wanaume na kuwaleta katika mjadala huu wa masuala ya hedhi, ili kuhakikisha kwamba tunapo kusudia kumaliza zile dhulma za kijinsia ambazo zinahusiana na masuala ya hedhi, basi wanaume wanawekwa mstari wa mbele ili waweze kuchangia zaidi, kwa sababu wako na la muhimu sana la kucheza kama baba, kama ndugu na kama wafanyikazi na wananchi kwa jumla. Asante.
Nije kwako Ruth, sababu ulikuwa kwenye uongozi na hasa kule kwenye kaunti ya Kiambu, na amezungumzia swala nzuri sana kuhusu hedhi kazini. Ni swala ambalo watu wengi tunamzungumzia mtoto mdogo, lakini kuna hasa wale ambao ni wanawake wako pale kazini. 4 kati ya 10 hawafiki kazini sababu ya swala la hedhi. Wengine ni uchungu, wengine wao ni kwamba wakati huo hawana mwito wa kwenda kufanya kazi. Je, kuna sera ambazo pengine wewe ukizingatia zinastahili kuwekwa na serikali kuhakikisha wanawake kule kazini wanapata nafasi ya kuwa na wakati ambao si mgumu?
Asante sana. Nikiangalia nasema nafikiri ni wakati ambao tunafaa kuelimisha, hata sisi wenyewe tunafaa kujielimisha sisi wenyewe na tuweze kujua ya kwamba wakati huu ukifika, na pia kwa pale kwa wabosi wetu waweze kuelewa wakati ukifika, mambo mengi hufanyika kama emotions, you know. unapata saa zingine kama unaweza pata hata mama amesikia akona hasira, anasikia asikii kufanya kazi venye umetaja, lakini ningetaka tuweze tupate mswada ambao pia sisemi ati watu wakose kwenda kazini hiyo wakati ukifika, lakini wanawake waweze kubalance. Hata kama hiyo wakati umefika, aweze kujicontain. Ili kwa sababu anahitaji kazi na lazima pia wakati umefika lazima apitie hiyo menstrual cycle.
Nije kwako, sababu niliona wakati moja nikifanya na shirika fulani kwamba wanawake wakati wamepata ujauzito, wamepata mtoto, wanapewa mahali ambako wanaweza kwenda na yale maziwa kuyatolea pale. Je, unahisi ndio wakati unastahili wanawake wakati wa hedhi waletewe hedhi kwenye kazini, kuwe na visodo kwenye kazini, na au ziwe zinauzwa kwa bei rahisi kule kazini?
Nahisi kwamba wanawake walio kazini wanaweza nunua sodu, na hatusemi kwamba hawezi pata. Ni kweli wanaweza letewa hizo hedhi, sodu waletewe kazini, zikuwe zinauzwa pale kazini, lakini isikuwe ati ni kama inauzwa. So vile inaweza fanywa ni pale vile mwenzangu amesema, periods man, tukuwe na dispenser ilizo za sodu zinawekwa hapo, na vile nilikuwa namuelezea namnongenezea mwenzangu tulipokuwa tumekaa pale, pia pale hospitalini wakina mama wakijifungua, sodu zisikuwe zinachajua kwenye bills, zikuwe zinapatianwa tu for free, so that mama akienda kujifungua sodu ziko available. Manake unajua huyu mama atavuja damu, so ni lazima atapata hizo sodu. So wakati wa vile unasema zije kazini, kama tuko nazo condoms kazini, mbona tusikuwe na sodu kazini? So tuwe nazo, lakini pia wale wanaoweza kununua, wanaweza kununua, wa make sure wanachukua hizi sodu, wanazisupply, wanapatiana kwa watu walio kazini. For example, mtu anaweza kosa sodu, amekuja leo kazini, amekuja kule mashinani, amekuja kazini kutafuta unga, na labda hana hata shilingi moja ya kununua hizo sodu.
Na hilo ndilo nilikuwa nakuuliza, sababu pengine una taswira ya kwamba hapa Nairobi kazi ambazo tunazifanya, hawa wanaweza kujinunulia. Kuna wale ambao wako kule mashambani, wengi wao wanapata shilingi 100, anajiuliza ninunue sodo au niende nikawape watoto wangu chakula?
Ndio, maisha yamekuwa magumu, sikatai, lakini vile tungependa kusema labda Ministry of Gender, na huyo ni waziri Aisha Jumwa, pamoja na mama taifa na first ladies wote maybe wa county, ni wakati sasa wao wachukue jukumu hili, waipatie kipaumbele, waweze kuchukua sodu hizi, watafute sodu hizi, wanachukua wanapeleka pale mashinani, wanapeleka kule kwenye maofisi za county na kila mahali.
Nipe nafasi nimruhusu ingia, sababu alikuwa anataka kutuonyesha jinsi ya kutumia sodo. Ananieleza ni aina tofauti, atuonyeshe, sababu kule mashinani wasichana wengi hawana uwezo wa kuzinunua. Kwa hivyo atatuonyesha jinsi ya kuzitengenezea kule nyumbani, sivyo? Alafu kisha unaweza kuzitumia. Tueleze, na uchukue kipaza sauti, kaweza kutuonyesha ni baadhi ya kazi ambazo wanafanya kule jijini Mombasa, kumuelimisha mtoto wa kike na wa kiume.
Samahani kwa hilo, ni siku ya kwanza mimi kwenda kazini bila vifaa.
Nashangaa sana. Inakubalika.
Kwa hivyo wakati tuko mashinani, huwa tumeona kuna changamoto ya kupata vifaa vya sodo. Kwa hivyo kile ambacho tunafanya ni kuhamasisha jamii kwamba kuna aina mbalimbali ya vifaa ambavyo msichana anaweza tumia kudhibiti hedhi. Ya kwanza, tulikuwa tumeonyeshwa pale awali, tuko na hizi tunaziita disposable sanitary pads. Ina maana kwamba unatumia mara moja unatupa. So huwa tunaeleza wasichana vile kwamba kuna vifaa ambavyo unaweza nunua ukatumia mara moja na kutupa, ambavyo vinajulikana sana. Ya pili, kuna zile ziko na sifa tofauti. Kuna zile wanatumia mara moja na wanaosha, wanaanika, wanatumia tena. Na ninajua hili watu wengi wako na maswali mengi kuihusu, hasa kuhusiana na masuala ya usafi na maji sehemu zile ambazo hazina maji. Lakini package ambayo waga inakuja na hizi reusable sanitary pads ni kwamba kuna package ya information. Msichana anafundishwa jinsi ya kuosha, kuanika, kukausha, na huwa haikuji kiwa moja. Unapata packet moja labda iko na pads kama 4 ndani, 5, 6. Kwa hivyo wakati anatumia moja, kuna zingine ambazo zimekauka na ziko tayari kutumiwa wakati ametoa zile. Mbali na pads, huwa tunahamasisha jamii kwamba kuna tampon ambavyo pia zinatumika mara moja na kutupwa. Watu wengi hawazitambui. Kwa hivyo tunahamasisha jamii ili waweze kujua kwamba kuna vifaa kama hivi ambavyo pia ziko kule dukani. Ya tatu na ya mwisho kwa ile ya nne ambayo nimekuja nayo ni ile tunaita menstrual cup. Okay. Kikombe hiki ndio kile kikombe ambacho kilinipatia jina The Period Man. Nilivyokuwa nikieleza jinsi ya kukitumia ndio jina lile likatokezea. Kwa hivyo hiki pia tunahamasisha jamii kwamba kinatumika kudhibiti masuala ya hedhi. Sababu kuu ya sisi kueleza jamii vifaa hivi vyote ni kumruhusu yule msichana aweze kuwa na kitu tunaita choices. Kuna yule ambaye angependa kutumia menstrual cup, kuna yule angependa kutumia tampon, kuna yule angependa kutumia reusable pad, na kuna yule angetumia disposable. Kwa hivyo tunaruhusu msichana aweze kuwa na ile uwezo wa kuchagua. Tunajua zote zinakuja na pros and cons, lakini muhimu ni msichana aweze kuwa na ile information ndio aweze kufanya maamuzi kulingana na kile ambacho anaweza kutumia.
Tukiwa hapo mheshimiwa, kuna swala la wazazi kutokuwa kwenye mstari wa mbele kufahamu haya maswala. Tufanye nini kumfahamisha mzazi zaidi kuhusu swala kama hili ambalo ameleta kwenye televisheni na kutuonyesha, kumueleza mzazi ni vipi anastahili kuzungumzia maswala haya hadharani?
Nafikiri jambo ambalo linafanya wazazi wasikuwe na elimu ya kuhusu mambo ya hedhi ya kwamba wazazi tumetafuta sana. Kwa hivyo tumekuwa harakati za kutafutia mtoto, na kwa hivyo mtoto anakosa wakati, ama mtoto wa msichana anakosa wakati wa kuongea na mzazi ili mzazi amuelimishe, na sana sana mzazi wa mama. Na kwa hivyo ile jambo ambalo ningetaka kuomba ni ya kwamba wazazi ama wamama wakubali kuwa na wakati na wasichana wao, sababu wasipopata wakati wa kuwaelimisha, nafikiri sasa hapo ndo wasichana wanatoka nje wanapewa elimu ambayo haifai. Na pia kuna mambo ambayo ya kitamaduni ya kwamba mambo ya hedhi haifai kuongelewa hadharani. Na kwa hivyo wakati huu kama vile ambavyo tulikubali mama ama msichana anaweza elimishwa ama anaweza soma, pia ningetaka hii mambo ya hedhi ikuwe sasa society kubali kukumbatia. Na kwa hivyo tukifanya hivi nafikiri itakuwa sasa kama it's like a national talk. So we will no longer be ashamed of speaking about menstrual periods. And also pia unapata ya kwamba mzazi haezi ongelea maneno ya hedhi kama mzazi baba yuko pale. Na kwa hivyo kile ambacho tunafaa kufanya sasa hivi, kwa sababu sasa imekuwa ni kama now it's a discussion, now kila mtu anaongelea maneno ya hedhi. Ningetaka pia wazazi ama both gender wakubali ya kwamba na wakati ambao tulikuwa tunaonea haya maneno ya hedhi umepitwa na wakati, na sasa wakati huu tukumbatie kuongelea maneno ya hedhi ili tumalize shida ya kukosa sodu, na pia tumalize the stigmatization imekuwa. Na tukifanya hivi nafikiri tutapunguza hata vifo ambavyo vimekuwa vikitokea kwa sababu ya wasichana wetu kustigmatiziwa na society.
Ruth, kwa nini mzazi ni muhimu sana kwa vita hivi ambavyo vinakaa kana kwamba ni vita ambavyo lazima twende sisi wote kama majeshi wa hedhi?
Mzazi ni Mungu wako wa pili. So mzazi akiwa amepatia zungumzo hili kipaumbele, itakuwa vyema na bora kwa sababu amekupatia hizo baraka. Na pia kutoka kwao sasa wataweza kuelewa ili the family units, it's a conversation that can trickle down. So mimi ningependa kusema kwamba tupeleke gumzo hili pale nyumbani, tuwe na nyumba 10, penye unaishi, kama unaishi Kibira, kama ndugu yangu alikuwa amekaa pale, tuwe na nyumba 10, watu kwa wanazungumzia the same conversation. Mzazi kwa nyumba zetu, kwa manyumba siku hizi wazazi ni tofauti. Kuna wale wako na baba na kuna wale wako na mama peke yao. Pia kina mama washike watoto wao, waweke karibu, wale wakuwe na mazungumzo haya kila wakati. Kutafuta hela ni muhimu, lakini pia kumjenga mtoto pia ni muhimu. Pia wazazi wanaweza tengeneza shirika lao la wazazi, la kuanzisha, la kutafuta pia fedha kama wazazi, through other NGOs, kama Kinania, Nani, Zana. Watu wengi walikuwa hapa Inua Dada, wanashikana kule nyumbani, wanapigia hizi NGOs simu, alafu wanatatua matatizo yaliyo pale nyumbani.
Nikuulize hilo swali. Mzazi, kwa nini ni muhimu sana kwa gumzo zima la hedhi?
Mzazi kwanza ndio kielelezo cha kwanza nyumbani. Watoto wengi hujifunza kupitia kile ambacho wanaona wazazi wakifanya. Na hilo ni muhimu kwa sababu linapeana msingi. Mtoto anapokuwa anajua kwamba kuna mambo fulani ambazo ni muhimu. Desturi za kifamilia zinakuzwa na zile tabia ambazo watoto wanaona wazazi wao wakifanya. Kwa hivyo pale nyumbani ni muhimu sana mzazi awe kipaumbele. Yeye ndio awe wa kwanza kumleta ule mtoto karibu, kuanza mazungumzo. Mara nyingi inakuwa ni ngumu mtoto kuanza mazungumzo ikiwa mzazi hata peana ile environment ambayo iko friendly na yeye. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni sababu ya kwanza kwa nini mzazi inafaa usishwe kikamilifu mstari wa mbele katika kuhakikisha kwamba masuala ya hedhi yanazingatiwa. Kuna utafiti ambao tunafanya kama shirika ukifadhiliwa na Bill and Melinda Gates. Tunajaribu kuangazia, kwa sababu tumekuwa tukisikia masuala ya sex for pads, wasichana wanafanya ngono ili waweze kupata visodo, na tumepata kwamba swala hilo ni kweli, ingawaje takwimu tulizonazo kutokana na ile research haionyeshi kwamba kuna wingi katika maeneo yale ambayo tulifanyia research, lakini cha msingi ni kwamba swala hilo la kufanya ngono ili kupata visodo liko, na linaweza kutoka wakati mzazi pale nyumbani ameanzisha mazungumzo kama haya, amepeana visodo kwa msichana wake, amepeana emotional support kwa yule msichana, na even madawa kwa wale ambao wanapata uchungu mwingi wakati wa hedhi. Kwa hivyo mzazi ni msingi sana katika masuala ya hedhi.
Jambi, kuna wale watoto ambao tunaita kwa kimombo orphan, na ukipata katika sehemu ambazo hasa hazijakuwa vizuri, unapata watoto wengi ambao hawana wazazi, wanatumiwa, na sababu nimefanya kazi kule kwenye mitaa hii duni, wengi ambao wako kule wanatumiwa vibaya kuhakikisha kwamba wanapata zile sodo. Je, shirika lako mmeona watoto kama hawa ambao kidogo wanatumiwa na watu wa jamii, wanatumiwa na watu wa nyumbani, wale majirani ambao wamewakaribia sana? Sijui kwenye shirika lako umeona jambo kama hili?
Ni kweli. Nafikiri watu na expectation yao hawezi kuwa wakifikiria kama Kiambu inaweza kuwa na ile shida ya kukosa vitu za heavy ama sodu. Na kwa hivyo nilipokuwa naanzisha coins, nilipatana na wasichana ambao wanalewa na nyanya. Na kwa hivyo nyanya ni kwa sababu wakati wao, unajua wakati wa na nyanya wako wanatumia sodu, si ndio? Na kwa hivyo nimepatana na kesi mingi ambazo wasichana wako na hizo shida za kuwa taken advantage of. Kwa mfano nikwambie, mahali ambapo nimetoka Kikuyu, shule moja ya primary iko na cases 5, na saizi wale watoto, mmoja ako darasa la 6, mwingine la 7, mwingine la 8. Na kwa hivyo unapata ya kwamba wao au watoto hawana, isipokuwa wapate usaidizi wa watu kama sisi, hawana njia nyingine ili waweze kupata zile sodu. Na kwa hivyo ndio maana nimehakikisha ya kwamba nitahakikisha nimezunguka Kiambu, sababu unajua watu wanasema Kiambu haina shida. Kuna shida sana. Na hawa watoto ambao sio tu ambao wanalewa na nyanya zao, pia wale ambao wako na both parents. Na kwa hivyo wale ambao hunipatia, kwa sababu mimi si ati naweza sema niko na partnership na mtu yeyote, naweza sema napata kutoka kwa donations, na pia marafiki zangu pia wananisaidia, wananipa pesa kidogo ili niweze kufikia ule mtoto ambaye amekosa sodu.
Periodman, nirejea kwako kwa dakika moja. Hizi ambazo ulituonyesha, huku tueleza bei. Je, kuna zile ambazo ni za bei ya chini ambazo ukimwonyesha msichana mdogo atasema, ama hizi zote ni za bei ya ghali, hakuna yeyote ambaye anaweza kuziafford?
Nadhani la msingi ni kwamba kila kifaa kinakuja na bei yake. Na kwa sababu unaona kitu kama menstrual cup ni kitu ambayo inaweza tumika kwa miaka kama 3, 5, 10. Kama hii ni ya miaka 10, unaipata kwa shilingi 3,500. Unaona hiyo bei ni one off, lakini ni ghali sana kwa ule mtoto ama msichana pale mashinani. Kwa hivyo mara nyingi zinapatikana na wafadhili. Ni wafadhili wenye heri njema wanajitokeza, wanazinunua kwa wingi, alafu wanazisambaza mashinani. Vile vile reusable pia si bei rahisi. Unaweza pata pack moja iko na pads 4 inauzwa shilingi 550. Ni ghali. Ingawaje inatumika kwa labda mwaka mmoja, miezi 3, lakini bado ni ghali kumfikia yule mtoto pale mashinani. Kwa hivyo tunategemea sana wafadhili kukuja ili tuweze kupata visodo na vifaa kama hivi ili kuwapatia wale wengine. Lakini tukiangalia in terms of access and affordability, utapata the disposable sanitary pad kwa upande mwingine ni ghali, lakini ziko very convenient. Okay? Kwa sababu utapata labda pack moja ni shilingi 50, na msichana ili aweze kumaliza hedhi kwa mwezi anahitaji packet 2. Kwa hivyo labda ni shilingi 100. Ukipiga hiyo mahesabu kwa mwaka mmoja, alafu upige kwa miaka 10, utapata ni ghali. Lakini in terms of comfort maybe na ile upendeleo, mtu angependelea kutumia ile disposable.
Tuweke sera zipi kuhakikisha kwamba sodo zinapatikana kwa bei ambayo mtoto wa kawaida ataweza kununua?
Asante sana. Swali zuri sana hilo. Ndugu yangu Ravji alisema kwamba condoms ni bure. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu ufadhili ambao umewekwa kudhibiti masuala ya HIV na mimba za mapema ni wa hali ya juu sana. Ukiangalia katika zile Sustainable Development Goals, masuala ya HIV, masuala ya TB, masuala ya malaria yameangaziwa kikamilifu katika zile sera, lakini hautapata masuala ya hedhi yakiangaziwa. Kwa hivyo inakuwa vigumu sana serikali hata kueka zile rasilimali, kwa sababu zile sera ambazo ziko hazijatilia mkazo vile. Tunaona saizi tuko na sera ambayo tunamshukuru former waziri alisign na mwenzake yule tunamuita the previous CS for Health. Aliweza kuzindua ile sera rasmi, lakini tunaona county hazijaweza kuwekeza kwa ajili ya kutekeleza ile sera, kwa sababu wanasema kwamba hawana sheria ya kuwaruhusu kutenga zile fedha. Kwa hivyo tukizidi na msukumo kama jamii, tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba serikali zetu zinatekeleza sera hizi ambazo tuko nazo. Si ati ni mbaya, tuko na sera nzuri sana, lakini utekelezaji ndio umekuwa shida. La pili, utaona hizi sera ambazo tuko nazo pia si watu wengi wanajua kwamba ziko. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu tuweze kufanya hamasisho, tuweze kueleza kwamba kuna sera hizi ambazo zinatetea masuala haya, na ni muhimu tuwafatilizie ili tuweze kuona matunda. Niko na kisa kimoja ambacho ni cha kusikitisha. Nilipata wakati mmoja tukifanya utafiti ya msichana mmoja miaka 12. Alinieleza kwamba huyu msichana alikuwa na ujauzito, na alinieleza, nilipomuuliza kwamba ilikuwa vipi ukapata ujauzito, akanieleza kwamba alikuwa na rafiki yake darasani wa kiume. Alimwambia kwamba mimi niko na dawa ya kutatua hii shida hii ya period. Ukipata hii dawa hautapata tena hedhi. Kwa hivyo wakafanya ngono.
Dawa ilikuwa ngono.
Dawa ilikuwa ngono. Hiyo ndio aina ya jumbe ama information ambazo ziko mashinani. Watu wako na dhana tofauti na ni potofu ambazo si sahihi, zinachangia sana masuala ya mimba za mapema na inahusishwa na masuala haya ya hedhi ambayo ni muhimu sana tuweze kuhamasisha jamii kule mashinani.
Sababu umekuwa kwenye serikali, sera zipi ambazo unajua mliweka kuhakikisha kwamba hili swala linatatuliwa kikamilifu? Kija hapa lazima udadavuliwe.
Mimi nimekuja hapa kwa niaba yangu kama champion wa hopes, dreams and dignity. So ningependa hilo swali ulize swali lingine. Asante.
Jambi, sababu niliona ukitikisa kichwa ukisema kweli kuna masuala ambayo yanakosekana wakati tunapata sodo zinanunuliwa kwa bei ghali sana. Tuweke nini, sera zipi ziwekwa kuhakikisha kwamba mtoto anapata akiwa kule mashinani anapata sodo kwa bei ambayo ni nafuu?
Kwa maoni yangu ningeomba jambo ambalo ninasisitiza sana mimi kama balozi ni ya kwamba tupate tax free sanitary towels. Na ili sababu kama wakati huu unapata inatoka pakiti moja inatoka 80 bob. Na kwa hivyo unapata ni mtu ambaye ako huko mashinani amepata 100 ama amepata 200. 200 ndio kununua unga. Kwa hivyo ataamua akose kununua sodu, amue anunue unga ili aweze kukula. Na kwa hivyo mimi jambo ambalo nasisitiza kabisa ni ya kwamba wacha niongeleshe ambao kampuni ambazo ziko hapa wakubali kututolea piece moja ziweze kupelekwa kwa hizo duka ndogo ziko mashinani, vile ambavyo tunapata pampers ama zile vitu ambazo watoto hufungwa ziko affordable, na pia ziko mama hawezi nunua paketi mzima lakini anaweza nunua piece moja. Na kwa hivyo ningeomba ya kwamba tukipata mama anaweza enda kwa duka ndogo aweze kununua piece moja wakati amepata wakati wa hedhi. Anaweza nunua hata kama ni shilingi 10 na bado abaki na pesa yenye anataka kununua apate chakula.
Kwa dakika moja sababu
nikiongezea tu kwa swala hilo la tax nilipoingia nilikuwa nazungumza na mmoja wapo ule mkurugenzi wa SAI, akanieleza kwamba tangu 2004 serikali ili tax exempt masuala ya raw materials, lakini bado VAT iko. Kwa hivyo kama wabunifu ama kama wale ambao wanatengeneza visodo wanasema ikiwa kutakuwa na uwezekano wa kuzero rate, kwamba wanaweza wakaclaim ile VAT, itakuwa ni rahisi sana kupunguza bei. Kwa hivyo hilo ni ombi langu kwa serikali, waweze kukalisha hawa wanabiashara chini, waweze kuzungumza, waone ni jinsi gani wanaweza tekeleza hilo.
Shukran sana, na sababu muda wetu naelezwa kwamba umetupa kisogo kwa dakika moja, sababu hukuzungumza kwa dakika 5 ambazo zilikwisha. Lipi ambalo ungependa mzazi wakiwa kula nyumbani alifahamu zaidi, hasa kuhusiana na vita dhidi ya unyanyapaa, vita dhidi ya swala hili nzima la haya ya hedhi?
Langu ingekuwa kuambia wazazi wetu pale nyumbani kwamba waweze kukaa chini na watoto wao, wapende kuzingatia mambo haya ya hedhi, watuelimishe, na vile vile pia watusaidie wakiwa pamoja na viongozi wa kanisani, manake pia wao ni wazazi, ili wakapate kuleta hoja hii pale mbele katika mikutano zao pale nyumbani, maybe kanisani kwa vikundi za wazazi na vitu kama hizo. Na pia sisi watoto tuwe sisi watoto, sisi bado ni mtoto. Kwa mzazi wako wewe ni mtoto. Sisi bado ni watoto. So sisi watoto tunapozungumza, wazazi wanapotuongelesha, tupate kusikia.
Asante sana Ruth Mweni ambaye ni wa shirika la Hopes, Dreams and Dignity. Vile vile tunaye Margaret Jambi ambaye alikuwa ni mwakilishi mteule kwenye kaunti ya Kiambu, anaongoza shirika lake la Queen's Foundation, na mtazamaji James Atito Molo kwa kimombo anaitwa The Period Man. ni meneja masuala ya fedha shirika la Stretchers Youth Organization kule kwenye kaunti ya Mombasa, vile vile ni mwanaharakati masuala haya ya hedhi. Nataka kumuita Olive Barrows, mzungu Mkenya, atumalizie sehemu hii ya mwisho. Mzungu Mkenya.
Mzungu Mkenya ni nani?
Mzungu Mkenya.
Full stop. Majina yangu kwa kikamili ni Olive Kaleche Barrows.
Kumbe ni Kaleche. Asanteni sana. Ni waruhusu hawa waondoke kwenye
makofi kwao.
Kwenye stage. Asanteni sana, wapigeni makofi. Asante kwa muda wenu, tunawashukuru sana.
I loved some of the proposals, like unpacking the sanitary pad pack so that if I need to buy a pad, I can access the pad. Then there's also, I didn't know about the VAT only being on what? The raw materials and not the pad itself. Okay, yeah, so 0 rating. These are conversations that we need to move forward as, speaking as a reporter and news anchor on NTV, it's definitely something I will be taking up. But at this point, allow me to welcome up Wenye Misuli no Matena, if we could move the podium to the center of the stage.
Wenye Misuli. Wenye Misuli.
Misuli. Alafu ulisema stigma kwa Kiswahili nini tena?
Unyanyapaa. Unyanyapaa.
Unyanyapaa. So hiyo ni kama mpiaro, nimejifunza kitu mpya. Ati tena?
Unyanyapaa.
Unyanyapaa. Stigma. And then pads.
Sodo.
Sodo.
Si sondumirio vile kidogo watu. Sodo.
Haya, nimejifunza mengi leo. And periods? Heavy.
Heavy.
Haya.
Periods.
All right, we got it. Hashtag Changing Cycles 2023. Allow me to welcome to the podium Dorcas Muga, Gender and Education Editor. We have been told education is critical. Makofi kwake.
Good evening. Yes, Dorcas Odumbe. Kiswahili sio mdomo changu, lakini I'll start by saying siku njema huonekana asubuhi. So when I woke up this morning and the sun was bright, I was like, thank you, Jesus. At least I don't have to carry a heavy jacket and all. So we are glad that the day has been beautiful, it's been bright. And I'm also glad that I've learned a few Kiswahili words today. Olive has just mentioned sodo, visodo, unyanyapaa, and heavy. I mean, we are carrying so many lessons with us this evening. First, I just want to thank each one of us for making time to be here. It's just beautiful to see people sitting together to push the agenda of the girl child and empowering women, especially those from needy backgrounds. And I'm glad that we brought together very critical people, key people in our society, who some have sat in very critical positions where they've changed policy, including our former CS, Cicely. And I'm glad that we covered your story when during the World Menstrual Day in our paper. Thank you for the good work you're doing. But I know I have very, very little time, but I just want to just point a few issues that have come up this evening that we really need to carry home as we go. I know each one of us is in that space of helping the women and the girl child just get an education and get on with their lives as normal as possible. First of all, the cost of pads, very expensive, so food for thought. 2, how do our girls dispose of their pads, especially from the rural areas? Do they have water? Do they have the pit latrines? Or are they just funny shacks where then they don't have the privacy? Stigma and period shaming is huge. Remember the girl from Bomet? We talked about her this afternoon. Government policy, yes, Madam Cicely left us with a beautiful one. So we've learned that the policies are there and very good policies. Implementation is the issue. So we need to shout about this every day until somebody somewhere gets to hear about it, until period poverty is treated the way we are treating HIV, until sanitary towels are as free. I can walk into a public toilet and just pick one, the way men walk into public toilets and get their condoms. So I'm happy that we're changing girls' lives one pad at a time. But the speakers here, most of them who are in the advocacy space, have talked about the challenges they face. They're unable to meet these 200 million pads that we need for these girls who cannot afford. We are saying they cannot afford. They cannot even get 10 shillings to go to the shop to buy that pad. So basically, we need to offer them to them for free. So finally, that menstrual hygiene discussion must be an everyday conversation. And it starts at home. So each one of us, as we leave this space today, let's take time and talk about it with whoever is near you. If you're a mother of boys like I am, I'll discuss it with my sons. It's in the office, wherever you are, let's talk about it every day. It's an everyday conversation, not just on the menstrual hygiene day or a day like today when the Nation Media Group has actually organized an event where we are pushing this particular agenda. So every day, everywhere, conversations to normalize women's issues every day is important. Jennifer Karina told us that all the women sitting here have a problem. So there's a girl who is worried about her menses coming, she doesn't have pads. There's a girl or a woman who is suffering from cramps, okay? And then there's that one who is suffering from those mood swings that we talk about. Then the periods come to an end, and then we start talking about menopause and hot flashes. As I'm speaking, I am sweating hot flashes, okay? So, that said, I just want to say thank you very, very much to Nation Media Group for just coming up with this. And I'm glad that this is just the first one. It is something that is going to be annual. Our CEO is here. She's the one who signs the check. So I'm saying this. I hope she has heard that it's going to be an annual thing. And I'm sure Janet and everybody else in this space is smiling because the conversation, media, we're the voice of the people. So this has reached millions of Kenyans and even globally. So I am sure they're taking notes so that when the second edition comes up, then we'll need even a bigger space that we have here. So first I want to acknowledge and give thanks to our keynote speaker, Janet Mbugwa, passionately pushing for this menstrual hygiene issue. We actually also recognized her when we had a special edition for Kenya at 60, among the 60 women in Kenya who for the last 60 years have done something, changing the women and girl child's life. So thank you so much, Janet. Honorable Cecily, we're very grateful that even when you're out of government, you're still pushing this agenda. And that's how it's supposed to be. So we're not supposed to just work there when we have the position, when we have the ability to, talk about policy and change it. But even when you're out there. So in your small space, please, let's do something. Of course, all panelists, because of time, I'll not be able to mention all of them. But of course, Period Man and our friend from Kibra, you stand out. You really do stand out. And you want to call upon all the men to follow in their footsteps. And I'm glad they're so knowledgeable. They know some things that I do not know myself. So keep going and keep calling upon other men to join, including those in our leadership positions, starting with our president and his ministers. All our sponsors, asanteni sana, 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 mbarikiwe. Safari Park Hotel for giving us this beautiful auditorium to hold our event. And of course, we've really danced today. I've not gone to the gym for quite some time. Sasa leo sijui nitalala vipi, lakini asanteni sana Kayamba kwa kufanya tucheze, tumecheza. And of course, the organizers of this event, starting with our financier, then there's Bertha, of course, who took lead in pushing us and pushing us and pushing us every day. A day would hardly go before Bertha calls me. So thank you so much. And of course to our MCs. Hey, Fred. Hey. Okay. Mbarikiwe nyote tuliambiwa bado mapambano. So, bado mapambano. And this is mapambano, yeah? Ensuring that period poverty is a thing of the past. Thank you very much. And there's plenty of tea here and snacks, so let's not go. My mother never talked to me about periods and menses and all that. But one thing she taught me is that mgeni akija nyumbani, usimwache aende hivyo, at least mkaribishe mezani. Kuna meza tumeandaa, I hope my Kiswahili is okay. Kuna chai, kuna mandazi, kuna mapochopocho. Thank you very much. God bless you. See you again next year.
Beautiful. Asante sana. Kiswahili chako kimeenda shule.
Thank you for that, Dorcas. She told you. It is Dorcas Muga Odumbe. She is the Gender and Education Editor, Nation Media Group. That was lovely. Thank you very much. Allow me to also thank our partners. You mentioned a panelist and the men including Rajiv Joshi, CEO, Sai Pharmaceuticals, Zana Africa, Megan White Mukuri. I can't see her. Thank you so very much. Janet Mugwa Inua Dada Power 254. Also one of our partners on this event. We have Safari Park. I cannot hesitate to mention them, especially since they are the ones who have served as tea. Huru International, Oceans Foundation, Evensis Deco, as well as Sai Sports, where I hope I have covered everybody. Yes, I have. I beg your pardon, National Industrial Training Authority. They actually have a stand just out here. Remember, walk around, take a look at the products on offer. Sai Pharmaceuticals say they have hampers. For all of us. Janet has given us bracelets. You know, you're walking away with something. You're not leaving empty-handed. Apart from the tea, make sure to take pictures at the photo booth. You guys, the photos I took earlier on my phone, my screen was oily, the hair. So there is a QR code. That is the good thing. There is a QR code, I've been told by Fraser. You go, you scan it, you can access the images, and then unaweza tisha watu Chocho Media, Changing Cycles 2023. Fred, before I invite Kayamba guys, Kayamba African Beats, to see us off.
Tujipigie makofi sababu hilo ndilo wamenijua nalo. Mtaanza kuniita mambo sasa si mpiaro, itakuwa ni makofi. Sasa nataka tujipigie makofi, tuanze na hivi. Tuanze hivyo. Sasa niwagawanyishe kwa vikundi viwili. Hiki na hiki, tuko pamoja? Acheni sasa. Rembo, shafika. Asante sana. Nikipiga huku, nikifanya hivi, mnapiga. Nikifanya huku, mnapiga. Twende kazi. Hafifu jamani. Twende kazi. Ongeza uzito. Asanteni sana.
And for those who've been watching us on television, on YouTube, whatever you're streaming us from, thank you so very much. This has been Changing Cycles. We have been told it is the inaugural. We continue the conversation offline. Have a good evening.
Kayamba, njoni. Asanteni sana, mbarikiwe mpaka mshtuke. Haya.
This is NTV.
When you've gotta go, go for Neptune, the softer two-ply tissue paper, available in plain white and colored.
How do you keep your toilets clean? I use normal detergent and bleach for washing. The detergent and bleach cleanless can leave behind yellowness, rust, and germs. Harpic's 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach, and kills 99.9% illness-causing germs in your toilet, including the COVID-19 virus.
Kabla mtupe standing ovation, kabla kupata medal, na kabla kuvunja